All right. Oh, I can hide myself. That's nice. If I get bored of seeing myself on the screen. All right. Are we live? Yes. So can anybody, are there people out there that are seeing and watching? We can see if they hear us and see us. Good evening. Hello. Aussie's waking up. What is it? What'd you say? It's like 9 a.m. there?
No, it's like 11. 11. It's like, yeah.
Oh, 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow. You said you're East Coast, Australia, right?
Yeah. East Coast. Yep.
Does Australia have like 4 area or time zones also?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Gold Coast, is that the West Coast?
No, that's East Coast as well. That's probably about 2 hours south of me.
So what do they call the West Coast?
West Coast is like Perth
Oh.
and, yeah, like Western Australia. So, yeah, there's not a, yeah, pretty much Perth is the only place that's got a track over there. So,
It doesn't seem like there is a lot of things in West Australia.
not really
Far
like
less than the
mining and stuff
East?
like that.
Yeah, but it
Yeah, the
doesn't seem
East is,
like there's like cities and things as numerous as East Coast, right?
yeah, lots of desert in Western Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
East
it's.
Coast is where heaps of population is. Yeah.
All right. Well, yes, people are arriving. So this is Kye Knight from Knight. Is it Knight Family Motor Works or Autos or?
Yeah. Motorsport.
I
Yeah.
thought it was Motorsport. Yeah, I almost said like Auto something, and I'm like, I don't think that's right. So yes, you are based in Australia, and you have a performance shop there, and you do dyno tuning,
Yep.
fabrication, building, driving, a little bit of all
Bit
of
of that
it.
sort of stuff. Pretty well. Well, these days we pretty much just dyno tune. Really,
Yeah.
we just do tuning. Yeah.
And I originally saw Kai on Skid Factory tuning a bunch of the cars lately, and I mentioned to Alan, it would be funny to have you on. So here it is. Here we are already.
Here we are.
Yes. So yeah, you said it's raining there. So yeah, do
Yeah.
you want to give like a quick summary of what you do and where you're located, just so people have an
Yeah.
idea?
Sure. Yeah. So we're located in Maroochydore, essentially, which is on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, which is about an hour and a half north of Brisbane. We do pretty much just dyno tuning these days. I have done wiring and fabrication. I'm a mechanic by trade and auto electrician and that sort of stuff, but I've been full time tuning for probably 10 years around. We do all the normal stuff around here. We do, Haltech, Link, we do Holly, we do Fuel Tech, we do just, yeah, pretty well, whatever. We do a lot of sort of, I guess, a lot of sort of what you guys would sort of do. Like we do a lot of street cars, a lot of drag and drive, straight drag. We do some circuit stuff, some hill climb stuff, just just a bit of everything, really.
What would you say? It's funny. So, what would you say like your average customer is? Is it like LS or Bera or like?
I think we have a pretty good variety, but yeah, definitely LS and Barra are massive. Do a lot of those. But then we still have a lot of the import stuff's pretty popular around here. So we get a lot of RB, a lot of 2JZ, 4G63, SR20, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they're quite popular as well. But yeah, definitely LS and Barra would be probably your two most common. But yeah, all the other stuff's pretty popular as well over here, like
it,
import stuff, and even we do some rotaries and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's all pretty broad around here.
That's I've never tuned a rotary. I have a friend who's building one and says he wants me to tune it, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'll get some ideas from people and we can try, but he's like
Yeah,
way
no,
more
you'll
people.
have a good time.
He's like, dude, way more people are blowing these up. So what could you do? Blow it up? I was like, yeah, sure, I could. But yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be neat to try. And
yeah, no,
then
it's good fun. It's yeah,
how many like I was what was I gonna say? So how did you get into tuning? I guess is what most people are always interested in knowing is how does that happen? it seems like everybody kind of fumbles into it and it just happens instead of someone. I feel like no kids. I'm like late 30s now. How old are you?
Mid-30s, yeah,
I would
like
say, yeah,
35
that
this year.
no one in our generation then, I feel like no one my age at school was like, I'm going to tune cars.
Yeah.
I feel like no
Yeah,
one.
no, well, I started off I got an apprenticeship as a mechanic. I grew up on a farm where I was always keen with tinkering with stuff, and I ended up having like paddock bashes, which is what I don't know if you guys call them that, but essentially it's just like a crappy old car that you'd flog around a paddock. You know what I mean? You'd just
Yeah,
like go and
I
drift
call
it. And,
them, there's probably a different word for every like town up here, but I call them like yard cars.
yeah,
Because a
exactly. So
junkyard
we had
car,
that.
but yeah.
So we used to do like crazy stuff with them, and we'd put like I did a draw through turbo setup on one of these little 4-cylinder things, like when I was a first year apprentice and this sort of stuff, just like jammed a heap of boost into it and just like fumbled my way around and just did skids and was happy sort of thing. But then that sort of progressed into, I always had a passion for it. So then the first real thing I was kind of, I think I've heard of you, is I wanted to learn it myself before I would do it for other people. So the first ever sort of experience I had was the very first one I had a Skyline, like an R32 Skyline, and then that had like the old school style of tuning with like what's called like a SAFC, which is like basically like a math clamp and this sort of stuff, like in, getting around a boost cut with a rising rate regulator and, putting a boost T that you just, crank up and that sort of stuff. And then the next one, I was like, I want to have some more control. So I actually did a Mega Squirt on a 2JZ car that I had. I had a Toyota Aristo at the time, which is a factory 2JZ car, and single turbo swapped it, and then actually got the, like the do-it-yourself build Mega Squirt like board. This is years ago. This is probably back at, this is probably 2008 or something like that.
Yeah, I've done all the same things.
Yeah, and so hand made the ECU, and then
yep.
And then ran the 2J with that, and then with that car was pretty good. Like, it's a heavy car. It's like what would it be, like a 3,800-pound car, and it went 1030s back then. So, and we raced that car for like years. I raced it for like 3 or 4 years like that, and so that was where I really sort of cut my teeth. And then when I sort of had that like proving itself, I then started working with a few other people and then sort of tuning their stuff, and then it all sort of just spiraled from there into what it is today.
Yeah, I feel like that's how everybody, like I said, it's funny when I think about it now, but no one I know that does tuning or was ever interested in it ever was, because kids are like, I'm going to like operate a crane. I'm going to definitely push dirt, or I'm going to shoot myself into outer space, but no one was ever like, I'm going to, make fun of people on the internet and tune cars. Yeah. So but it seems the same. Like someone, I did the same thing. We just did dumb things with cars, and then you start spraying them or doing something dumb and adding power, and then you blow it up, and then you're like, well, what if we could just drive it longer? And then it starts surviving, and then you start applying it, and then same exact thing. It's funny.
Yeah, for sure. I did it. We had heaps of we used to love that. Like, we'd have because when I worked and we had apprentices and stuff, and they were always younger technicians coming through, and they were easily influenced. So I'd like convince lots of them to put like turbos on their dailies and stuff, and we did all kinds of silly stuff like 300 wheel horsepower Hyundai XL. I don't know if you have that, but it's like it's a crappy little front wheel drive car that it's like, if you make 300 wheel in it, it's like you can just change lanes with the gas pedal at 100, like 60 mile an hour, whatever. You could just stand on it and it'll just buzz both front tires and just change lanes and stuff. Like, just
There was a car, Devin. We were talking about Devin earlier. Devin Vanderhoof built Ford Festiva in like a 1991 Ford Festiva. It's like a 1,700-pound car from the factory. And he did that Ford BP, which is that like Ford Mazda 1.8 liter Miata twin cam engine, and turboed it. Yeah. And that was in the Festiva. So I think it only made like 225 horsepower and 250 foot-pounds. But it was on like 13-inch tires and everything else. Yeah. I did
Just an
like a video.
absolute crazy.
What's
I was just going to say, like, I remember one of the funniest things that apprentice that we had, we did a turbo. I saw in the comments they're asking it's 4G, but no, it's a G4EK is the engine. So it's like, it's probably a descendant of the 4G, but it's not a 4G. It wishes it was a 4G. But we had that same car. It was funny. His dad had a HSV, which is like would it be like a Pontiac GDO? You know what I mean? Essentially, so it's like one of those, like I think you guys have it, like a G8 or something like that.
yeah,
So he
a
had
Commodore,
one of those,
right?
like a six. Yeah, Commodore. Yeah, so but there's like
Yep.
a fancy version. It's like a HSV, and so
Yep.
it's like let's just put like a Pontiac G8, and it's got a 6.2 in it, so it's LS3. And they had a highway race, like his dad and his son in the XL, and the XL smoked him. Like, and he was like, got out of the car. He's like, I'm gonna sell this piece of shit. He's like, I'm out.
That's when I decided that I had a G8 with a magna charger and a cam and everything, and then I built a Ford Fairmont for like $4,200. It went low tens with 40% converter slip, and I was like, I'm never building a car like this G8 ever again. It's not. The blower was $6,500. The entire Ford Fairmont that went tens all day long was $4,200.
Yeah, good.
So I was like, I'm never doing this again. Nope. But very similarly, people are once that happens, you're like, this is trash. This supposedly fast car is trash.
Yeah.
That's a good. Someone was just asking Global Media. This guy. I'm curious if you do have like max ECU experience and opinions.
I've played around with one or two. It's definitely not super popular over here. We've
Not
got
here either.
In Australia. What's that, sorry?
I said it's not really here either, but people talk about it a lot. And I have a friend who put it on they call it the Ameribera, the 4200.
Oh, yeah.
Calvin Nelson, he has a max ECU on something, and a friend of mine that swaps LS BMWs, it's like his business, he sells parts and everything. He has been using max ECU because it has integrated CAN, and he's very good with CAN though, so I can understand why you would want that ECU, but that's the attractiveness from what I understand.
Yeah, definitely. The CAN template that they have is excellent. It's like the link CAN template's really good as well if you know how to use it. But yeah, no, I haven't had a huge experience. I've done a couple, but yeah, definitely. It's just, I mean, I guess, we're a shop, we tune what comes through the door sort of thing, you know what I mean? And it's just not that popular over here. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's made in like Poland or someplace like somewhere in the Europe, and I think that's where that's where the largest user base is.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was under that understanding as well. It's more European based. Yeah.
Sweden, Mark says. Oh yeah, and then I guess I would ask, you guys use Haltech a lot, right?
It's very popular over here. It'd be probably the most popular. Yeah, Haltech is very popular.
Yeah. Would you say that's like your favorite for tuning?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably definitely up there. We do a lot of Holly stuff as well, though. I think that's because that we sort of cater to the LS market a fair bit, so it sort of filters down. We do a lot of Holly stuff as well. But yeah, but definitely Haltech's just so popular over here. It's like every second car pretty much has got a Haltech in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so you do a bunch of Holly cars. I feel like it's tough, at least from what I see on like I watch like Full Boost and Skid Factory, and very similar to like that group of friends, like all you guys. And it seems like it's like barely any Holly cars.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, yeah, obviously some of those things
but a lot of them aren't LS. But whenever they do, it's. I mean, I know they're also kind of sponsored, so.
Exactly, I was going to say that. Yeah, like Skid Factory, for example, they have a relationship with Haltech. And but there's quite a few. Like I would say the more sloppy inspired builds around here, they're all got Terminators on. You know what I mean? I think that. Yeah, so like we see that a lot, but at the same time, I think it's just what you're used to, you know what I mean? Like, so we, predominantly we would tune Haltech. So there's some of the features and stuff with Haltech that you grow really fond of, and you know how it handles something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can still, as once you've done it enough, you can make any ECU really do what you want. I'm not one of those guys who'll turn someone away to say because they've got the wrong ECU or something. Like, I've had a fairly broad experience on most of them, and I can make pretty much anything work.
Yeah. Yeah, I say similar. I say to people, like, if the car starts and like kind of idles, I could probably do something with it. But I don't want to diagnose like triggers and wiring for you. So, like, if it starts and runs, we could probably do quite a, I always say if it responds to changes well, then we can move on. Other than that, we'll figure it out then.
Yeah, nice.
And then I was going to say, was there any, so with cars, since you got into cars by doing a lot of that stuff yourself, do you have like a project? Well, I saw you have that one you share with someone else, the Corolla.
Oh yeah, my wife. Yeah, my wife races it. Yeah, it's a K70 Corolla. So I think you got them. I don't know.
We have ones that's older though. Yeah, I would say. I don't.
Yeah.
I think yeah. So they put rotaries in them here.
84 Corolla. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, little Toyota thing, and then it's got a Honda K24 in it. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I missed that you said your wife races it, because I think I was watching when you were doing the head gasket, and you said someone else races it, but I don't know if you said that directly or whatever. But that's funny.
Yeah. No, my wife races it. Yeah.
That's kind of like Evans.
I'm normally busy at the track tuning, so yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Jeff Evans, tuner near me, did similar for a long time, for like 6 years. He built and tuned it, and his wife would race it. Yeah.
It's got a stick shift in it as well. So, and that's my wife. She wanted to. She's stubborn. She wants to. She wants to do it like that.
What the hell transmission is in that thing?
So it's a Toyota, like out of a Hilux. So yeah, Hilux R series gearbox. So
I don't even know.
Just because they're common over here. Yeah.
I was gonna say we probably don't have anything like that, but then some Toyota nerds will probably yell at me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, but yeah, they're just common. I mean, it's one of these things that I was like, Hilux is just everywhere here. So I'm like, there's a place in New Zealand that make a bell housing adapter for it. So I was I'll go with that, because I'm like, I could pick up another gearbox from a scrapyard if I need to. So
it must be pretty tough. That thing made like 600 horsepower, right?
Yeah, it's right around there. We'll see where it goes, but yeah, it should be somewhere around 600. We ran it up the other day, and it was like 570 something on like 23 pounds. So
yeah, that's what I saw that one too. That's does that have like a delay valve on the clutch, or does it just?
Yep. Yeah. So it's a SWS slipper valve on the clutch. Yep.
Does that have like a manual adjustment on it, like physical adjustment, or is that one of those solenoids?
Yeah, physical little knob that you can turn to control the bleed rate. Yeah, and then that's all controlled. It's controlled through the ECU. That's got a Haltech in it, and so we control that valve so that it's basically active on the two-step and then active for a certain amount of time after the two-step's released, so that it doesn't, it's not engaging when you don't want it to be and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people have the manual style bleed valve, and then I talked to a guy through Devin Vanderhoof recently, and the guy sells an electronic version of that. It's called like the Billy button or something like that.
Yeah, I think a few people had tagged me in it. I haven't. I'd be interested to see how it works. The current system seems to work not too bad if you remember to turn it on. And that's probably the biggest thing.
I guess what they have, what's cool is they have an app, and you can set up like the amount of delay and test it, and do a bunch of things with that. I saw a video on it recently, so that's pretty cool. But I see like obviously like a lot of, I feel like no really decently fast stick shift cars anymore have, or don't have, some sort of delay. Otherwise, you're just busting.
Yeah, or like an actual slipper clutch or something, like a weighted clutch or something. It's the toughest bit. Especially because the clutch, like we run in our car, it's a twin disc sintered iron sort of thing. It can hold, I don't know, 1,000,000 foot-pounds of torque or something. But it's like if you accidentally just smack that thing without the slipper, as I found out, it will just instantly break the rear end. Like it's just grenades it. It's
Nice. What diff is that? Another Hilux diff or something in that?
Yeah, Hilux diff. Yeah,
they must be
they're
like
pretty good.
it must be like we have Ford Explorers, and you can get IRS or solid rear, and there's 1 million of them in the junkyard, and it's 488, and everything in the world is built around Ford 8 and 9-inch rear ends. So yeah, you can get the entire diff with disc brakes for $80 and slide it under a car and weld axle perches on it and call it a day. So it must be the same there. I remember
virtually the same. They're very popular in the smaller cars. Like obviously 9 inches are exceptionally popular over here as well. If you're building something with, 1,000 horsepower plus, like everyone uses 9 inches.
It seems like that Matt guy. If you've got a little
car, like these cars are only like 2,400 pounds or something like that. You know what I mean? So for a car like that, you don't really need a big 9
it's a total waste.
You can get away with the Hilux axle, it'll be fine.
You just need to not be dumping it at 7,000 without a slipper or a cushion or something.
Yeah, exactly.
What was I gonna? I forget what I was gonna ask about that thing. That Matt, what's that guy's name that builds all the rear end and does all of the chassis?
Yeah, Matt Rogan. Yeah,
that's guy, Rogan Industries or whatever. Woody always says. That guy, I've seen him do a bunch of those on video. It seems way too easy for him.
It is. We did the same thing. Again, we're all sort of friends and in a similar area. And so I spoke to Rogan and I said, hey, let's put the Hilux diff under the car. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Just come around on Saturday. We'll do it. And literally we drove the car in there. Like when I first got the Corolla, it had a standard 4K engine in it and gearbox and diff and everything. And then I drove it in there one day. We stuck it up on the lift. We just started going at it with sawzalls and angle grinders. And then we rolled it back out of there at like 2 p.m. the same day with the Hilux diff under it with all the brackets and stuff made up. We just smashed it. It was, He's like, this isn't my prettiest work. I'm like, I don't care. It's functional. I don't need pretty. I just need functional.
Yeah, that guy seems so fast. He can like 4-link something in his sleep.
Yeah.
Or ladder bar or build the entire differential, or it doesn't seem like it matters to him.
Yeah, no, he's really good.
Hilux is a better Tacoma. Yeah, I always hear that. We don't get a lot of cool trucks. We only get the lamest, largest trucks you can get. And then any small trucks we had are now the size of the large trucks. And the large trucks now are literally like the biggest thing in the world.
We're starting to get all the big trucks coming over here. The Rams and the Silverados and stuff are starting to come over, like
the brand new ones, right?
Yeah, they're starting. They're only just recently, because you never used to be able to buy them over here, but they're just starting to trickle through.
I heard about that. Everyone complains. I forget Luke, Full Boost Luke shares those articles about people, because I guess your car parks aren't as big as ours are. Ridiculous because our vehicles are ridiculous, but
yeah.
But yeah, they're gigantic now. You ever drive any of those newer trucks?
I have driven, I've driven a couple F-250s and stuff that have come over here, and I would definitely say that our roads and our parks are not designed for a car like that. I mean, you can still get around, but it's like, you can just tell it's like was never intended for them to be that big.
I live here, and they're gigantic. You can't even like see out of the hood of like a brand new regular Silverado. It feels like it has a 20-foot long square for a hood. I'm like, this is dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Oh, and then do you have any other, do you have anything else other than the Corolla that's like what would you say, like a company or a personal vehicle that you race?
That's the one we have at the moment. We've got a couple other little things sort of in the go. But at the moment, it's sort of just focusing, honestly, just doing that, keeping that car running, and my wife racing that one, and then a whole heap of other customers that we go to the track with regularly and stuff like that. That keeps me pretty busy. And it's funny, people ask me, they go, oh, you need to get in the driver's seat yourself, which don't worry, I actually am planning to race it this year because my wife is pregnant. So she's not racing this season. But I get like just as much enjoyment about seeing like my customers and friends doing well, you know what I mean? So it's like a different kind of enjoyment. Like I don't know, I can get enjoyment going to the track and watching someone do well in PB or get round wins or something like that. That's enjoyable for me too. You know what I mean? I don't need to be steering the thing down the track.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. Devin says the same thing. Because people say like, "Oh, you need to drive," and you're like, "Yeah, I don't know where that." I think that comes from like if you do well and they have nothing else to say, they say that you should have driven it.
Yeah,
It's like a weird cheap jab, but yeah, I mean, it's different for someone like you and I. I'll blanket us in there, but if you know 10 people at the track and you're helping them all do well, it's better
mm,
than just making a decent pass in your own vehicle for the day.
correct. Yeah, like the look on someone's, even I think even like even green drivers are sometimes quite like fun to take to the track. You know, like I said, like someone who's like, I think you've mentioned it a few times. You know, like the first time someone ever gets a 600 wheeled car or something, and you take them to the drag strip for the first time, and you're like
Oh yeah.
giving them the dad talk in the staging lanes. Be like, it's like if this thing goes to the wall, lift. Like it's like it will hurt you
If
very
something
quickly.
seems funny, just let it go. You don't
Yeah.
need to do the rotary thing where you know, change lanes the whole way and everyone can cheer. That's being a moron.
Yeah. So and then like, yeah, I don't know. I guess like even sometimes then like it's obviously it's fun working with people who know who know what they're doing and stuff like that. But it's also fun taking someone who's like first time to the track, you know, and just watching them. Like, you know, you never get a bigger smile than somebody who's like first time at the track and the first time they run a 10 or something. You know what I mean? And they're
Yeah, their
just like
hands are
they just come back and
shaking,
they're just
holding the
bouncing.
time.
They're just shaking. They got the time slip and they're just like
Yeah,
it's
it
just
says
you
130 and
can't
they're like,
help not looking happy.
"Oh." And you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay. That's I'm glad that you think that's exciting."
yeah.
You get to relive that fun that you can't have anymore cuz yeah. What was I going to say? I like always checking people's data logs and seeing that they never floored it.
Oh yeah, the chicken foot straight after the trans brake release. Yeah,
The
yeah.
chicken
Right
foot. You...
here, you lifted. No, I didn't. It's like, well, the log says you did, so I'm gonna trust that.
I forgot that you guys call it that, chicken foot.
Yeah,
Cletus calls it that too.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
they were
That's it.
making people race like Ruby and stuff like that, and they're like, it's going slow, and they're like, oh, why is the car slow? And check the log, and they're like 40% throttle.
Yeah, yeah,
This is why. Or when people let go of a trans brake, they will lift for 2-3 seconds and then eventually get back into it.
yeah. That's probably the most common one I see is yeah, like on the hit of the trans brake, it'll come back to like at like 0.3 out, it'll come back to like 40% throttle, and then they'll slowly get back to 100. Like
Yeah.
it, yeah. Uh,
I don't know why.
like
I don't
hold the
know. So
foot
I guess
down.
enough people do it. I guess that it's like a weird. The people's brains just do it. I guess I don't. But yeah, I don't. It is interesting when you see that people usually don't floor the car and then they go slow and they don't know why, etc.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say, what do you have like a favorite lately? Like a favorite combination or thing that you like to see, or one that's rewarding for people to build, or something like that? Am I making
Um,
sense?
I guess I get the one thing I'd say is probably a little different for us over here is I was actually thinking about it because listening to a couple of your shows about the like we kind of get jealous if we hear about the like $200 junkyard 4.8 or something and you throw it in there and you're running tens for
Yeah,
four
all of the
grand or
truck
something.
iron blocks. Yep.
Whereas we never got that.
Nope.
So we only got like in 2000 when LS came out, we got LS1s. They ran LS1 for a while, then they made LS2,
Yep.
and then we ended up getting 6 liters. We got like L98s, L76s, and we got 6.2s, and then later we got the LSA and stuff like that. But it's like we never got any of 5.3s, 4.8s.
Yeah,
All
we
that
have like
never came in. We
40
never
other
got any iron block
engines
stuff.
in there.
Yeah, we never got any of that stuff. And because like we get them here, like we have 4.8s and 5.3s here, but they all got put in shipping containers and brought over. And then because of that, they're not $200. Like even a 5.3 short block, like just one that needs rebuilding, is still probably go for $1,500 or $1,600. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
Like,
tough.
and so that sort of thing is that it's a little more expensive, and so a lot of the time stuff it's not, it doesn't not happen, but it's a lot more, people put more into it because if they kick a rod out of it, they're going to be mad either way, because it's like, it's not like a $200 engine. It's like a couple grand engine if you break it.
Yeah, I remember asking on a full boost video years and years ago, I'm like, why does everyone have a 408? Don't you guys trust, and he's like, he explained that. He's like, those don't exist here. You have to get like something that someone blew up on a rev limiter and then re-sleeve it or cut it. Or he's like, there's nothing really just good like that in vans. We hate you. Thanks.
Yeah, we never got them. Everything's 5.7s or whatever. Like obviously the Gen 4, like you can get the LS1 that had Gen 4 rods in it, and that's not a bad. So that's probably the best of the motors that we would have got, like for cheap,
Yeah,
what I mean?
but
like,
even then, it's not.
Even still, they're still not cheap. Like if you get a running motor that's in any decent condition, it'll be, it used to be $5 or $6 grand or something crazy.
Wow.
So
yeah,
that's probably the thing that we see. It's we don't get that cheap, but then we'd still, I guess the Barra is probably one of our most popular engines. Like if you get the later one, the BFFG, which is like a later essentially version of the Barra, it had thicker connecting rod in it, and they're not a bad thing. Like they'll happily go like easily, like 600-700, like definitely like 700 wheels through an auto, through a turbo 400, like happily on stock internals. You just do like valve springs, oil pump gears, head studs, just the normal sort of stuff, and like that's your probably that's your cheap sort of 10-second engine around
here. I
here.
believe that was what they just did with the Cresta, right?
Yeah.
They just did head studs
the Cresta and Woody's
springs.
Crown as well. It's just Woody's Crown's a stock bottom end FG Barra as well.
Yeah, that's also just same, just has studs, right?
Yeah, studs, oil pump gears, head gasket. Yeah, just that. Like, and that's it. Like they do break, though, obviously, like somewhere up around there, probably around that sort of 800-ish, 800, 900 is where they start popping, And
I would say same for a lot of LS people start running into trouble there.
Yeah. But then, like the good thing is that, like with the Barra, especially if somebody says, hey, I want to make 1,000, you just tell them straight up, you're like, we'll build it. And the good thing was that the head, the block, and crank and all that sort of stuff is the same in all of them. So you can get one out of a taxi, that they're not too, literally like a couple $100, and then you just put rods and stuff in it, and it's like that's
you
like,
save the money on it not being the better engine, but at all.
Yeah, because the factory turbo motors, they want like $5 or $6 grand for them, but you can get an NA one for like $400 or $500,
and then spend $1 grand on pistons and rods each. Yeah, and then you're under it. Yeah, you just have to do the work at that point. So whatever you're going to commit to. Yeah, that's so you. I mean, that's. I think I asked like, what's your favorite combination to tune? But you said most of the people have the Barra or the LS, so that's the answer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of those things. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I can appreciate anything. It's funny. Like I have some guys who have just like the crappy little things that make like 200 horsepower. I don't know, like a favorite combination to tune. I think it depends. They've all got ups and downs. You know what I mean? And even sometimes something you think that's going to be lame, sometimes really, is actually rewarding and good to tune. But like I don't know, like a bit of everything really. That's I wouldn't say I have a favorite. They're all good. They're all sort of good in their own right. It's I do like stuff that's done well, like, and that can like, and you can lean on and stuff, like, and it's a good combination. That's nice.
Yeah. Of course, everybody has a good day when something makes power easily.
Yeah. Like, I guess we get, even like I did one a little while back. It was like a 6-liter car, like a 6-liter with just a stock head and stuff, and it had a 110 mil turbine, like a S485 on it, and it's like that thing. I think it yawned out like 1,000 at like 18 pounds. Like, what I mean? It was just like a really good, efficient combo. Like it had a rod and piston and stuff in it. Like it was a built motor and everything. But it's like I'm just like, this thing, you could just thrash the pants off this thing all day long, and it'll just like, it just did it so easy. It was just I guess combos like that are nice. When you can have it and it all just works, and it's just like you can just tell it's just in its efficiency zone. It's just doing it easy.
Yeah, some of those. I did a big block twin turbo car recently on like easy pump gas tune up. It made like 58 horsepower per pound or something like that. Just
Yeah,
disgusting. Yeah, and then it melted its plug wires off like after a couple hits in, but we knew that was going to happen.
you
The
get
fix
that.
for that was deemed for after we made sure the motor was okay. So,
Mm.
there's a I was going to say Mark has some questions here. He says, "Do you guys ever get Fox bodies? Like factory Fox body cars?"
We never got them here, like they never came here,
Yeah.
but they, to my knowledge, you could never buy them here. Well, you might be able to buy them, but it would have been like a special order or something. Like they're not like common at all.
Mhm.
But they are, and most of the ones that are here are left-hand drive. They've been imported, so there is a couple filtering through. Especially most of them are like chassis that were built in America, and then they've been brought over here as a running race car, essentially, or a lot of the time as a roller or something like that. So
I
it's
would
already
say
had
that's the
more chassis.
most cost-effective way because why else ship it over? Like it'd be much cheaper to instead of buying like an original Fox body from here that's ruined and then moving it and then building it. It's cheaper all around to wait for someone to sell like a tube chassis that you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah,
buying a
that's
roller,
starting to get more popular.
yeah, I've seen because I saw a video or two where someone has like a super clean white notchback, and I'm like, man, that must have been expensive to get there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
4G combo. Do you have a do you tune a lot of 4G 63 cars?
Do a few, yeah, do a few.
Mark here was asking, do you have a combination in them that like works well or that you like to
I,
use?
I think like for a street car, like a 35R with a decent little cam and stuff like that is a pretty hard to beat. Like on E85, that's a pretty cool combo. It'll make like easy 600, to the tire, which is like in an Evo, that's decently quick. You know what I mean? So I'd say that's probably, you don't need to overdo it. You know what I mean? You can do like a 35 frame turbo and a decent little cam, like a 272 or something, and yeah, it'll make some pretty decent power pretty easily.
They're always rewarding.
Yeah.
What else? I thought I saw something else here. Oh yeah, I've been saying this to my wife nonstop. Of you see that? Do you guys? I think you can get that $10,000 Toyota pickup truck. Can you guys get it? Did you hear about that? It's called the
Not
Hilux
sure about that
Champ.
one. Yeah, I don't know if we got that. Is it like currently new production? Is it?
Yeah, it's new, and I think it's in like Thailand or somewhere else right now, and they're gonna release it to a lot of other places, but not the U.S. And all of us
Oh,
are
right.
pissed off because it's a
I
cool
haven't
little.
heard of that one coming through. The Hilux is definitely like a normal Hilux is a lot more expensive than that. But yeah, I don't know. We maybe get it.
Yeah, I would say you guys probably will because you seem to get those
Mm.
things, but we don't. We don't get anything cool like that. America's busy trying to sell everybody $100,000 trucks.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. You can't get any small usable vehicle at all anymore. You have to sign
Mm.
up for like a F-250. You
Yeah.
can't get like and that like even if you want an old Toyota or older cool small truck, their value is like through the roof for no reason because that stuff doesn't exist and people want them and the survivors are just
Mm.
worth too much. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
we would like to buy that, but they're never going to sell it to us. I was gonna say, what was I gonna ask? Like a tuning thing. Did you have anything recently? Like I did, interestingly enough, last year in like 2023, I did a bunch of European like Volkswagen combinations I would have never touched normally. But my wife goes to like a lot of Volkswagen Euro car shows. She has
Okay.
she has like 14 cars right now, I think.
Wow.
So
That,
and a lot of times they're like, "Hey, your husband he does tuning and what blah blah blah. Could he tune this?" And one of them was like an air cooled stroker motor Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle with a Holly
yep.
Sniper on it as a draw through.
Yep.
So I tuned that, and then I did a bunch of like Turbo VR6 cars and some other stuff with standalones. Like again, I've never touched them, but I was like, they're like, I loaded a base and it idles, and I'm like, well, we're halfway there, so bring it over.
Yeah, nice.
But did
Yeah,
you
I've done
do?
we do a little bit of that. I've done an air-cooled Volkswagen setup similar to that. It had individual throttles on it, and it was turboed. So it was like a individual throttle with a turbo, and we ran it. It was flex fuel car as well, so it was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, they're not crazy powerful. I can't remember how much it was. We overpowered the clutch on the dyno. I remember that. We sort of got to the limit of the clutch, and we were like, all right, that's where we're going to stop for today. Yeah, it was. But the owner was stoked because he was just worried if it was going to run or not, and it was like it definitely ran. And then the only limit we came across was the fact the clutch was probably a little underspec for what it could do. So
Couldn't hold it. What so did that have like one of those chambers where it filled a pressure chamber and all the ITBs were in it? Because those engines, like the intake manifold ports are like 3 feet apart.
3 feet apart, yeah. So it came up essentially, and then the turbo outlet split and wired off, and then the ITBs were on each cylinder head, so they were sort of 3 feet apart. You know what I mean? And then it linked between them.
So the throttles were right on the head.
Right on the head. Yep.
And then the turbo outlet was actually split to all four.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of came up and it split, it wired off, and then it went over to the others. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that was a pretty like a weird one, you know what I mean? But yeah, that was pretty cool. It was I don't know, I guess things like that are fun to get working, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had some strange stuff. I've had a MR2 with a turbo Hayabusa engine in it in both transmissions.
Yep.
That was interesting.
We do a hill climb car that had a pro-charged Hayabusa on methanol that we did for a while. I ended up crashing it, which was unfortunate. But that was actually quite competitive for a while.
A pro-charged Busa motor.
Pro-charged Busa in if you look at like European hill climb, so it looks like a Formula One car, but a bit smaller. So it's like an open wheel,
like Formula
wings and slicks car.
We have like Formula SAE and other hill climb vehicles like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be very similar to a Formula SAE, but yeah, it looks like it's like all wings and slicks and aero, and then pro-charged Busa engine on methanol. Yeah, that was a pretty cool thing. It was crazy fast. It was good.
That's wild. My friend was asking Monkey Fab. He was asking if you guys got Volvos.
Yeah, we got Volvos. Yeah.
Like the old
they're really common. People put like 1UZs. Do you guys get 1UZs? The Toyota 4-liter V8? Did you get that?
I think that's in some of the older pickups. I bet Mark knows that, Tech Mark on here. He's worked at dealerships and whatnot. I don't know enough about. He just said yes. I think the older Tacoma V8s are 1Us.
Yeah.
Technically.
So yeah, pretty common to people put like turbo 1UZs and 2Js and 1Js and that sort of stuff. They seem to fit in there fairly well.
We have them popular. For sure.
Oh yeah, Lexus LS400. That definitely is a 1UZ. Yeah.
LS, yeah. SC, etc. Yeah. I know. There's like I always thought about using one of those, and every time I bring it up, because I just think they sound pretty cool and it'd be cool to use. I forget who, Al and someone else was like, that engine's not that great. He's like, don't even waste your time. He's like, a shitty 5.3 is way better. Don't even. He's like, then you have to adapt it and everything. And I'm like, well, that just deflates my boat, but all right. Yeah, I won't waste my time now.
They have issues like head gasket retention and stuff. They were just never really designed for big cylinder pressure. They're good for like a bit of fun, and if you pull them up, without trying to lean on them too hard, and they do sound good.
They sound awesome.
But yeah, definitely, like, if you're looking for bang for... I guess, like I said, it's so hard for you guys that it's no wonder LS is so popular. You guys can just get them so cheap. It's like, why wouldn't you? You're just mad to do anything else almost.
He said the same. He's like, you're just going to lunch head gaskets and stuff, making a fraction of the power you're used to, and you're going to be upset.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to do that. Thanks for talking me out of it. For a while, I was getting motors for... Right when I started doing LS stuff, you could pull them yourself, and it was $86.
That's just obscene.
Yeah, you would have to take off like AC and something else, but you could have like engine, oil pan, to intake with the coil packs on it, most of the accessories, $86.
That's wild.
Yeah, and that's how
wouldn't even.
That's how I learned. Is I was like, this does not cost that much. It's time to learn.
Yeah, no, exactly. You wouldn't even be mad about than doing stuff. Somebody's saying one you said is better than Isuzu 1.6. I'm thinking that's I reckon that's directed at the we had a little Isuzu 1.6 on the dyno yesterday.
$86. They're not $86 anymore, but they're not even after like ridiculous inflation and other garbage we have going on here. I would say a fair price for like a running good iron block LS is still $500 to $600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not. I mean, it's already. When I was yanking those for $86, that was like 2005, 2006. So
yeah,
that's a while now. It's 20 years. But still, you can easily.
They never were cheap. Like really, it was. Yeah, they only ever came out like the standard ones come out like in the SS Commodores and stuff, and then we never even got the truck versions. So it's like they never really got cheap over here. Similarly,
because people we always friends of mine used to say someone has a boner for whatever, so people like who had drift cars, people that would do LS swaps would have a boner for like an aluminum LS1, they're like, I have a real LS1, it's not some garbage 5.3. And I'm like, all that means is you had to tell me you spent $2,000 for nothing.
Yeah,
because similarly they would buy like the LS1 and T56, and it would be $2,000 to $4,000 depending on mileage. And a T56 is worth $1 million now over here.
Over here, just crazy. You're not getting into a T56 for under probably $3,000 or something.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's so dumb because I've had people for years where they're like, "Why is everything automatic?" And I'm like, it's. Especially if you make decent power and you have a stick, all you're going to do is destroy the gearbox and clutches, and the clutches are going to be $3,000. That's why.
I've actually got an interesting one. I remember I heard you talking about on one of the podcasts about this is something that's probably up your wheelhouse, but I don't know if you've tried before, but on the Terminator X with the closed loop boost control, obviously like how it's dome control only, I've had pretty good success with running just a single Mac valve, running a dome pressure sensor, and you just set it up off compressor, and that works perfect.
Yeah, it does work pretty good.
Yeah.
As the closed loop,
like that works real good. I've got heaps of cars that run on that, and like obviously, like it'd be great if you just had map target, but the dome target with just a single 3-port on the top of a valve works great, and you can do advanced tables to offset it and stuff. I remember hearing it in the podcast previously, and I was like, I'm not sure if you guys do that, but even just versus a raw duty and RPM or whatever table you want to do, that actually works pretty damn good. I have no complaints on that.
No, yeah, I mean that whole system was developed from the ground up to do dome control, and it's definitely the best way to do it. It's just it's weird once, because I tune a lot of the setups with the input dial I sell. It's like a wiring harness, and I offset the boost amount versus the ethanol amount, and it gets tricky with like target amounts to get the right amount I want. So I end up doing like it's so much easier to just set up the car with a raw number and do ethanol versus whatever. Or some of the cars I do wheel speed based, and then the dial just has more power per mile an hour. It's just more aggressive and less aggressive. So
it would work really well for an auto car, definitely.
Yeah, a bunch of the stuff I've set up, like you get it around 850 to the tire, just vehicle speed by boost, pretty works extremely well. And then especially if you can offset that table too by like a TPS amount. So if you back out of the throttle a little, it actually lowers the boost. It feels like a bigger engine. It works better. Because I think like I've explained, or too, a turbo car, once the turbo lights off, you can go to like a quarter throttle till you start to get some of your engine back.
Absolutely.
At half throttle, that thing, it doesn't matter.
we do pretty common. It's especially, I don't know if you see this as well, is probably getting in a little more technical stuff, but on the newer G series turbine cars, I've found what used to work for wastegate now just is nowhere near enough. So we see this commonly on like the inline six stuff, which we do a lot of. Typically they would have like the gate just punched out of the collector. And everyone to run a 50 mil gate. And these days, if you're like on a G40 or a G42 or something like that, it won't make less than 28 pounds of boost. You know what I mean? Even with a 5 pound, you can take the spring out of the wastegate and it'll still make 28 pounds of boost.
Wow.
And so then we've been doing a bit of stuff where you're actually limiting drive-by-wire max angle to help. You can like create a pressure differential across the blade and force it to have boost control. And it's crazy how much you have to neck them down sometimes. Like you might be on a car with a 74 mil throttle or something. You might find that, you have to bring the throttle back down to literally 28 or 30% to get it to and it'll still make 15 pounds of boost at 28% throttle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's always funny to hear. It's always neat, again, like when you say like you take someone to the track for the first time, it's funny to have someone get in like a 500 plus horsepower turbo automatic car for the first time, because a lot of them are used to like pretty anemic small block V8s, I would say. So they're used to being on the floor to keep that thing like spinning the tires. And as soon as they have like a turbo car, especially if it has a 4L80, pretty prominently a lot of our stuff has. And just do all the way up through the gears, off the rev limiter and high gear. And they're like, whoa. And it takes them forever to like lift enough to not be thrashing the limiter. You can tell they're just totally not used to having that runaway power.
Yeah, for sure.
What was he saying? Aluminum. Oh yeah, people were just talking about 1UZ. You've beaten the Hoff, have you?
Yeah, I see. What is that about? I think that's directed at Paulie.
I don't know. Yeah, I just saw the Hoff and I was like, uh-oh, what is someone saying? Yeah, the 1UZ does sound cool, but like everybody has explained to me, they're like, it's just trash can. It's a cool sounding trash can.
There's definitely better stuff. And the thing is, they're not cheap to modify either. They got 4 camshafts. They got all this sort of like,
it's like a shitty Coyote.
That's true.
It's a D-list Coyote. No, yeah, we have. And then, what I wanted to do was, normally I have time to like make a video and I'm like, hey, I'm going to have Kye on and you guys should ask questions ahead of time. So I didn't even get those.
We got analog digital.
Are you a fan of adding? I saw nitrous here. Are you a fan of stacking power adders? Do you do a bunch of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We do it on all of our stuff. I have most of our smaller cars. Obviously, you can't run dump valves like in the gearbox to try and get them to, like
that Corolla
converter. Or yeah, because a lot of time it's like a 120-inch engine or whatever, and it's trying to spool a fucking 42 or something. You know what I mean? So it's like it's going to need some kind of help if you got a converter that's worth a shit when it tries to actually couple. You know what I mean? So so definitely that's a big thing over here. We spray nitrous into just about everything to get it up. But yeah, obviously I saw the other guy commenting about the 140 pounds per minute of air with no nitrous. It would be probably it would look at converter management. You know what I mean? I'm assuming he's talking about an auto. Otherwise, if it was a manual car, then just a really good 2-step strategy. You'll get it coming up, no problem. We stack them all the time. I always find turbo cars seem to just love nitrous. Actually every car loves nitrous.
Yeah, would you say it's funny, at least in my area, and definitely when I got into cars, people are so scared of nitrous oxide. Would you say that people are the same in Australia?
Yeah, definitely sheepish, I would say. Yeah, and I think it's. Yeah, but I think I've heard some of your videos on the a crappy car and just spray it, and it's like just loves it.
Yeah. That's how we got into it, is we would get, because Cash for Clunkers didn't happen until we got way into those old shitty cars, which is sad because then we lost them all. Or the value of them went through the roof. There was no point in getting them at that point. You couldn't make any money. You'd be losing thousands just to destroy them. But yeah, I would say it's funny because I got into it just out of pure curiosity, trying it, and I'm like, this is actually extremely easy to manage. How are people this dumb? But that's with a lot of things in life, I think.
I think probably one thing I could say though is that like on a more highly modified engine, something that's higher strung, obviously that tuning window does become smaller. You know what I mean? Like if you've got like even a basic 5.3 or something like that, and you could spray some nitrous into it pretty comfortably. But if you have something that's like a fairly stout, like well built, like say somebody had something that was like 12.5 or 13-to-1 compression or whatever, then that tuning window becomes a lot smaller. So if you don't know what you're doing with the nitrous, then obviously, yeah, you're going to burn some shit up pretty quickly. But I think honestly, like dry nitrous, like the stuff with the Holy, and like everything's got it now, the Haltech and everything like that. That a properly set up dry nitrous system these days, they've made it very, very good. It's very, very good. It's an excellent power adder.
Yeah, it's funny how people are scared of it. And then, I mean, I have sprayed on top of some crazy stuff. But yeah, it's funny how I remember when I was jetting my Colorado. I was making like 996 rear wheel, 992. It was one of those days where you're making like 10 away from 1,000 to the tire. And I was like, this thing just will not go. And it was neat because Nitrous Outlet had reached out to me and they're like, hey, we'd like to help you cross that 4-digit barrier. So they sent me a wet plate kit. But what I did was I ran the regular solenoid and the purge solenoid. I ran dry into both sides of the wet plate.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did 235 jets, which is like 50 horsepower to the tire. But since it was on 18 pounds, it was 153 rear wheel per jet. So it was like 330 some horsepower to the tire. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's a similar experience what I've seen with boosted stuff is that like, yeah, I've sprayed, like 100 or 75. We normally use like a 75 or 100 shot to spool, just so you're not dicking around on the converter forever. You know what I mean? On smaller stuff, you just want to come up quick.
Yeah.
And I've then we feed that back in down track on top of 40 pounds of boost or whatever, and yeah, like on Pumpy 85 seems to love it. So
yeah, it goes way. It always makes way more. I've had people criticize. They're like, "Why is the jet so small?" And then it makes like 186 rear wheel, and they're like, "Well, that's a lot. Why is?" I'm like, yeah, that's why you start with the 35 jet, Chief. It's basically, I mean, like it's like double per atmosphere, essentially, just like the engine. I feel like.
Yeah.
So if you have 100 shot on 14 pounds, it's basically 200 or more. And then I think they just, they're best friends, so it always ends up being more than you figure.
Yeah, that'd mirror my experience as well as spraying on top of boost is that definitely very effective. We've used it a lot to get little cars out of the hole as well, like little 120-inch engine or something, like trying to get that thing to 60 foot, you know what I mean? A lot of the time, that's where we'll use a spooling, a spooling shot to get it up onto the converter. And then while it's sitting on the two-step, it won't be on the spray. But then once the trans brake's relief, we'll bring the spray back in again. That really helps to push the converter and flash the converter and get the thing
to get it to 60
foot.
really well. I've said that to people. Yeah. People would think I'm kidding when I'm like, because everybody wants a very streetable car, but then they're mad that it like foot brakes a 1.6 twice a year. They go like twice a year, but then getting a looser converter would get them to 60, but then it wouldn't drive nice. And I'm like, just hit it with like 150 shot out of the hole and shut it off. You can, I mean, the Holly, obviously, but we're explaining to people, you can easily shut the nitrous off on like 10 pounds or so. You can literally use it just to scoot the car and shut off. And that'll get you like a 130 instead of a 160. And obviously that's significant change. And people act like that's like such a crazy thing to do or ask for. And I'm like, why? That's if you're going to use it twice a year and the converter is perfect for the other 360 days a year. I don't understand why. But yeah, it's such an easy thing to do also. But yeah, it'll cut 0.3 out of your 60 on a truck. No problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like everybody's scared of it, and man, I was like, it's difficult to hurt something with nitrous, in my opinion. Jeez, what are you guys doing? I figure a lot of nitrous people, their shit isn't running good on motor to begin with, and then they're saucing it on top of it, and then you're asking them how they're tuning it, and they're just counting how many plugs they burned off.
Yeah, or they've just got a really shitty ignition system, like you said, and it's like not actually burning it up, and then it'll pop the intake off it or something. You know what I mean? Like,
or they're something funny, and they're using the jets on the card, which is always like a 9.8 air fuel, and they're just puddling their intake and just fireballing it. Yeah. Or they're like, a lot of people, at least I feel like in the East Coast, like when C5 and C6 Corvettes came out, I feel like dudes were just putting dry kits on and Fast and Furiousing them with buttons. Yeah. And they're all driving like stick shift cars, and they bog them and burp the hood off the car. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, a window switch costs like $100, and it actually makes the car fast and consistent. Unlike, anyway. Oh, what were you guys have you guys have glides out the wazoo, right? Like everything used to have a glide, so at least you have those.
We had, I mean, and a lot of the stuff these days, like, because a stock glide, most people won't run a stock glide case up over.
That's true, they're garbage.
Yeah, like they explode and try and kill you.
But I feel like you guys don't have as many TH400s.
I'd say that's probably changing. I would say probably over the last 5 years now, like pretty much most of the cars that were going glide are now moving over to 400s, I would say. And then obviously, like in our bigger radial racing stuff, like everyone just uses the same stuff. Like everything's got an M&M 2-speed in it, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Okay.
With the lockup or something. Like in the big, like our big radial racing, so to speak. It's literally just like copy and paste from what you guys are running. Maybe a couple of years older. But yeah, they're definitely more of the street style stuff. A lot of the LS based stuff we do these days is all TH400 stuff. Yeah, like pretty much everything.
Because you guys don't really have ADEs because you never got work vans and trucks.
Again, we never got ADEs. All the ADEs had to be brought over. Yeah,
I wonder how it would be there if you guys just had those. Because again, that's like the $80 engines. We used to be, you could, for a while, for under $500, you could have a 6.0 and an ADE.
Yeah, wow. No, that's
out of an 8-lug truck, like bloop, right out of it. No problem. Put it in the back of your truck.
Yeah, that just sounds absurd to us. That the best we got was a 4L65, which, as you know, is
it's nothing.
No,
it's like a 60E with like an extra planetary gear or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be an extra pinion gear in one of the planetaries or something, but it's still
like yeah, that's funny. We have it. I wonder if you guys have something. Well, I mean, you guys, the Barras and all of the cool like Fords and whatnot. But I wonder if you guys have anything. Do you guys have any like common autos that are good that aren't? You guys don't have the 80E. The 6L80 is also just probably super expensive because it's all of those high end cars, right?
Correct. And then the other thing with the 6L80 is that it doesn't really gel super easily with like. I know that Terminator's just brought out the 6L80 like.
Yeah, it's hard because it's that mechatronic operating system, and it has to be very happy.
The transmission has its own control unit, so it sort of limits you to what like options you've got. So, like I said, like pretty much everything has got a 400 in it or a glide, pretty well. Again, that becomes expensive straight away because it. Glides and 400s, they're all fully, built. They're aftermarket case a lot of the time, because it's hard to find a stock core that's any good, you know what I mean? So a lot of people go straight to a reed case or something, and it's not cheap. But no, it didn't really there's the factory Ford 6-speed is it's a ZF, like a ZF gearbox, like a 6 HP. They're pretty good, but again, it's like if you're trying to a lot of these days, I think it's the same. Everyone wants a 1,000 horsepower street car, and if you want a 1,000 horsepower street car. Yeah, you just skip all that and just put a TH400 in it and forget about it.
It takes, you have so much power, you don't need all the ratios. Yeah, I agree. I have the 6L80 because Holly just came out with that controller, and I was such a loudmouth about them not doing it for so long that like the day they announced the controller, I'm like, all right, I'm throwing my transmission away in my car that I just built. I built 2 cars last year. And one of them's a Ford Fairmont, and I put the 6L80E in the Ford Fairmont.
Yeah, I think they're a good like the 6L80s are, we got those standard in like VEVF Commodores and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and,
they're awesome.
Yeah, they're a great gearbox. They're great. It's like, I think, like I said, for the like the hot rodding community that's building some swap cars and stuff, because that's only now trickling through where you're starting to be able to get aftermarket ECUs that'll talk to that. I think it will maybe see it be a lot more popular now. But yeah, otherwise everything was just, pretty much all the hot roddy sort of cars it would have would be Glide or 400.
Yeah, I'm curious how it's working really, really well, but I won't be happy. I don't want to say it's working really well to people until like I have I have 255 tires I want to put on that car. It's a Fox. You know what a Fairmont is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's basically a Fox body. So I just want to go to the track and go like it made 570 to the tire roughly, and it weighs like under 3,000 pounds. So it'll fly, and especially because that first gear ratio is like a 408 or a 403, it'll probably do like a 1 foot wheelie just coming off idle.
Probably.
It has there's a centrifugal blower company up here called TorqStorm. So it has one of their 75 millimeter blowers on it. And it's otherwise it's a stock iron 6-liter with like a cam in the blower and a 6L80, but I want to see it hammer all the gears, like shift. I have it geared pretty short, but it'd be cool to see it shift like into fifth and have no problems. Then I can say to people like, hey, it's actually good. Because tap shift and everything, it drives like a tuned OEM 6-speed. Like it drives exactly like you want it to, and everything's great. But I don't want to be like, it works great, and 3 people buy it, and then I have to tune the car, and they won't stop smashing the rev limiter, and then now I'm responsible. Because swapping.
So that's got the Holley 6L80 control on it, does it?
Yeah, and essentially all it does is it takes. I keep asking, and I'm not getting answers out of my Holley guys. So I don't know if there's probably like a giant Holley firmware update that's going to happen, as it always is happening with every ECU manufacturer, because you can't do 6L80E control with the Dominator yet.
Yeah, that seems absurd.
So it seems like to me, the Dominator hardware is really old, so maybe it doesn't have that the second CAN channel, because on the Terminator, you use CAN wires in the drive-by-wire harness.
Okay.
So there's engine 1 and 2, which is like inputs, outputs, and then there's drive-by-wire, and then there's transmission, is how the 4 plugs on a Terminator X Max is. And then a Dominator has 2 more in the center that are literally just for I/O. It's got like 100 inputs and outputs.
50 inputs and outputs. Yeah.
Beast, yeah. But you actually pin that harness into the drive-by-wire. So I almost wonder if there's no CAN 2 channel, like a chip at all, because the Dominator is like 15 years old or more now. Or they can do it and they're waiting for some giant release they don't want to talk about. But what's odd is they won't say yes or no.
Well, even the other thing I have customers with it, because you see the Terminator V3 update has now can do like wheel slip calculation natively.
I was blown away because there's stuff that they don't put in that I think they could easily, and I bitch. And then for no reason they give like motorsport grade traction control for nothing and didn't say a word about it. And you're like, I didn't ask for that, but wow, that's awesome, but you didn't do what I asked for. But I can't.
Yeah, it's
I
like
can't
flex
complain.
fuel's still not there, but
Yeah, I'm like, I can't complain.
Or the engine safeties tab,
yeah. Dominator has.
But like to do the same thing with the Dominator, you got to do it with like a heap of outputs and stuff to to calculate wheel slip and stuff. And like I've done it all before, but it's like the Terminator has a drop down for it now.
They like made literally, because I remember when the software dropped and I was like, whoa, I'm kind of blown away by how nice those traction control drop down is. Yeah, but they can't have an ethanol one that does like 5 settings easily, or a health one like the Haltech codes or whatever else. But I mean, there's workarounds obviously, but there's no just dedicated thing, which blows my mind. But well, here we are.
I know. I was blown away when I opened V3 and I saw the traction control. I was like, what?
That's what I said. I was like, someone screwed up.
I thought the same, because then I have customers with the Dominator and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to put that on my one. And I'm like, yeah, it's not in Dominator yet.
Or they have to pay the money for the drive shaft, like the Davis oriented traction control. People that might not know that, guys, in the Dominator software, there is traction control that you have to pay more for, but it's drive shaft acceleration speed oriented for like just drag racing.
Yeah.
Not like
and
active.
Like I've done you can do a wheel slip calculation with an output channel, and I have done that on Dominators before, and then you use that to output but it's like it's a stuff around essentially, you know what I mean?
All of it is a workaround, but the Terminator got it for free, like really overqualified setup. It's funny. Yeah, Mark just said the product key for it is $500.
Yeah, exactly. Like crazy.
But yeah, the 6L, all it essentially is doing is the Holly in itself is translating to GM CAN language, and then it's just spitting like, I think I've scanned over 16 PIDs with HP tuners. Yeah. So the Holly is just spitting GM, RPM, torque output amount, and it actually has custom tables. You can spoof your own torque amounts, so you can make tuning it really easy. And then I've been developing like a TCM file with HP tuners to try to make it all easiest back and forth. So I got tap shift working and all sorts of easy. And then I have a friend up the street that's putting a 6L80E in a 300ZX. And we're going to load everything that works in mine into his. And if his works, then it's like, it's the base tune for everything then. Because
probably still more testing than what some people drop as.
Yeah, it's so because people are like, Matt, make a 6L80 video, do the 6L80 stuff, and I was like, guys, it is so complicated, and I don't want to be like, it's good at all until, like I said, that car has to make a pass and just rifle gears because a 6L80E can, but can they do it together? Because right now, I mean, it makes 600 rear wheel, it weighs 2,800 pounds, and it has like dry, hard soap for tires. So you can smash the tires off from a roll in fifth sometimes. Yeah. And it shifts great, but it has no load on it. It's just annihilating the tire. So, I've showed people videos where like I'll stop and do a burnout and it goes, what? It goes like into fourth. And I'm like, it's working great. It's shifting extremely fast. But, had it set up to lock up. Yeah, the other issue, people... 6L80E has like 75 operating systems from GM. Yeah. So that's why I'm developing something that works with all the Holly stuff, and then I'm just going to give out that 6L80E HP tuners file to everybody.
Consolidated file would make so much sense for most of the swap guys like you're talking about. Like that's just going to be all they need. That's going to work perfect.
Yeah, because there's dedicated buttons on the drive-by-wire or the transmission harness for tap shift up and down and second transmission mode like tow haul or whatever. So you can have a mode that's like obsessed with locking up for if you're cruising and you just need to have the tranny cool and get good mileage. And then it's nice. All of that finally is working. For the longest time I couldn't get my tap shift to work, and I don't know why, and I fixed it the one day and I don't know how, and I don't care.
Like it works.
I had to change like 1,000 settings for like allowing tap up and tap down. And of course, like I was talking to the guy at Holly, and he's like, yeah, no one else really has this problem. I'm like, yeah, I do, because I said I would make it work and hand it out to everybody. That's why it's being an asshole right now.
I saw someone's commented about the converter lockup at 100% throttle. I'd definitely say if you're running a high stall, you want to, because a lot of the time, all the high stalls and the 6Ls, like they have a reduced converter clutch, like diameter. Mm-hmm. And I've found you definitely want to be not trying to lock that thing up if it's got any kind of serious power going through it, because it'll burn that thing up pretty easy.
Yeah. What is this? What are you saying? Find a good one, toss in a better. Yeah, there's all sorts of, there's a bunch of issues with the 6L from the factory is just, what sucks is a lot of people hate on that transmission, but rightfully so, because a lot of the programming from the factory was awful. Yeah. And all it needs is to be told what to do, and then it works great. It literally goes from a transmission where people are like, I wish I didn't have this. I wish I had a 4L60. And then once it has like a decent tune-up in it, takes 30 seconds, and then they drive it, and they're like, this is the best transmission I've ever had. Like it goes totally from black and white so quickly. But yeah, it has a bad rap, but like I said, I had that G8 and I put 85,000 miles on it and it made 555 to the tire.
Yeah.
And it would chirp fourth gear like every day. I just beat the tar. I was a teenager and I had a 555 horsepower G8 in like 2010. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I just beat the pants off of that car. I did a GPS indicated, like, I think in fifth, it would do 186 at the top of fifth gear. Because it had six, but it was too long. It wouldn't accelerate. And I'm like, I'm just going to burn the car down. But it would easily, I've posted a bunch on YouTube, the videos of it. It would just go straight up to 186 miles an hour. And was crazy, I've never had a car that was kind of that nice before. I always had really crappy cars. That car is like dead quiet till like 120 inside. There's no like wind noise. So you're like, I'm not actually going this fast. It was weird.
Yeah, no, they're quite comfortable. They do sit like so easily at high speed. Feels like it's
115
cruising.
on the highway at like a low RPM and just cruising. No problem for those stupid cars. I got so many tickets in that car. Holy cow. Just and what's funny is I had stock axle back on it, so it was quiet too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would do like donuts and intersections with that, like total stupid Aussie kid.
That's common over here.
Just listening to my blower whine.
Ones because they can't afford the V8, so it's all the V6 ones over here.
Oh, nice, nice.
They sound horrible. It's like
Chevy V6s
Infinity
are some
or
of the
whatever with the
worst
exhaust
ever.
cut off.
Can tune my 18. Do you guys do a bunch of HP tuner stuff, stock ECU stuff?
Yeah, we do a lot of the HP tuners for a lot of the GM, and we even do some Dodge based stuff. We do Mustang as well. I do a bit of the Mustang stuff, not a heap of it, but it's still do a bit of the Mustang Coyote stuff. I also do stock ECU stuff. I do a fair few Subarus and stuff as well. So I do like Subaru stock ECU and a handful of stuff. And then obviously the Ford stuff as well. So Ford Barra and all that sort of stuff. We use HP tuners.
That's
like
true.
HP tuner supports Ford Barra over here.
Yeah. I feel dumb for asking.
And there's another company. Yeah, there's another company called PCM Tech that do a little more tailored packages for the Barra ECU as well, like for factory Barra ECU.
I heard about them. They have OS updates for some of the truck stuff too, right? They're kind of breaking ground.
Correct. Yeah. They got. I think they're even doing some stuff on the Mustang stuff as well.
Yeah. I've heard people talk about them because they have like modified stock files and have added Flex and some other stuff, right?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. You can do Flex, and they change a bunch of the way that I don't know if you probably haven't come across, but the Ford. The Aussie Ford stuff is interesting, because at the time, I think most of your guys' Ford operating systems were all MAF based, whereas ours are all speed density based. And so they have a fairly interesting little speed density algorithm because they're dual variable cam timing as well. So they have some pretty interesting...
It's like virtual VE where it's got like 4 tables.
Correct. Yeah, it's like that. It's got like virtual VE versus cam angle
low,
and then overlap.
Cam high. Yeah, like a K series or something.
Yeah. And that's its only load calculation. They don't even have a mass airflow sensor. Like they don't have one. So it's getting your head around that the first time you ever tune one, it takes a little bit because it's not like and it doesn't have in like the obviously like E38 and stuff, like you can see the virtual VE, but with the Barra stuff, they never added that because it's like us Aussies. They're like, oh, who cares? How many of you guys? There's only like 5 of you or whatever. So
especially for like a taxi engine, technically, yeah.
Exactly, but yeah, getting your head around it is definitely a bit. But yeah, it's actually quite clever, honestly, how well it works. Of how when you actually understand it, it's like well, this is pretty clever how they've done this.
Yeah, I do not like doing the stock Ford stuff because of all of like the. I have so much in my brain already and for what I do, and I just do cars for fun. Once I started seeing like the torque-based OSs and all the Ford stuff, and I was like, I don't even care to learn any of this stock Ford stuff. I don't. I don't care. Because everything is, I understand like you can take a 700 horsepower blower car that could be really touchy and make it extremely drivable in every aspect. But I'm like, man, they just seem to it definitely, my brain was having trouble like gathering all of that the first couple times I tried, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
floor some Holly piece of junk cars here and just be happy.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot to it that's yeah, I see that they're saying a lot of the more modern stuff on the comments there is speed density. But yeah, like at the time, you got to remember Barra was like 2005 is when it
Yeah.
came out. So I think in 2005, most of the stuff was math based still.
Correct. Yeah, I was gonna ask
Yeah,
that too when Dale was saying that.
yeah,
I was gonna say like '03 Cobra was 0 to 5 volt meter based, and you
yeah.
guys were already density by then.
Correct. Yeah. So that's where I think it was at the time. Like now we're kind of all used to the crazy talk and, like a Coyote tune. It's got 26 bloody maps of,
Yeah. The
of
first time I
of the
touched a car
torque
like
inverse.
that, someone was like, "You have to data log which table it's using predominantly and edit that one." And I was like, "I'm gonna do it caveman style, and I'm gonna make every table the same, and then it's always
Yeah.
gonna do the same thing I ask it to." And then it worked, and I was like, "Oh, look, 1997 F body versus 2027 Mustang, same thing."
Yeah.
BA Falcon was '02. Yeah, everything was still largely meter based for Fords. I feel like
Yeah.
not until 2011 I think is when Ford finally was like hertz based metering stuff.
Yeah.
And then they went to, now I know, like Dale is saying, like all the EcoBoost and up, I would say like what, 13, 16 or something, all the trucks and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
are speed density
Yeah.
again.
I saw them asking as well, but yeah, most of our Coyotes are 5.0s. Yeah. Yeah, like most of our Mustangs are Coyotes. You can get EcoBoost over here, but they're just like, I think they're not popular. Yeah. Like,
Good.
yeah. Yeah.
I hate that when I see like a nice newer Mustang and it's like has the 4-cylinder turbo. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
shouldn't care, but it's like blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, why?
Oh, yeah.
Why did you do that?
Yeah.
It sounds terrible. The
Yeah.
V8 cars sound terrible too. Like I'm happy a lot of other people share it, but whenever I go on a tangent and I make memes making fun of everyone with a Coyote that's loud, that is like, it sounds great, and we're like, no, literally everybody thinks it sounds awful. How do you not know it's awful?
Oh yeah, I don't know what it is, but with those, but a Coyote with not enough mufflers on it is like, I don't know. It takes a special kind of person to think that sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just it's who can be the loudest. Yeah, do you have, what was I gonna, you have a Dynapack, right?
yeah. So 4-wheel drive Dynapack. Yeah, it's made in New Zealand. Yeah,
That's what Evans has also. Evans has had a Dynapack since like 1999 or something like that.
yeah. I've seen a few of his videos, and he has a academy thing or something, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he has
yeah,
a, he was one of the first people. I did a radio show with him. I'd love to have him on again. He only lives like an hour from here at his shop and everything. And EPA was like he was one of the first people to get totally hammered by the EPA over
yeah.
here.
Right.
Like 10 years ago, they smacked him with like $2 million suit.
Wow.
And that was when, and even after that, people seem to forgot about it until like I would say last 3 years they've been going after people pretty heavy, and now people on like the internet and YouTube are like, oh no. But man, forever ago they came down on that dude. I don't know if someone didn't like him or what. Someone did not like him, or they wanted their Civic tuned and he said no, because he's a
Yeah.
man of principle, and he was probably said no forever, and they were like, they developed the EPA just to get back at Jeff Evans maybe. It seemed very personal when they went after him, so I don't know what happened.
I heard about that happening a little while ago. We're lucky that touch on wood, touch everything I can, but over here it's pretty, like, we have some crazy rules for driving cars on the street, like what you guys would think are crazy, like stuff that's illegal, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
over
I
here.
hear it all the
But
time. It's pretty wild, like that they can just defect you and like take your shit and crush it.
yeah, like to an extent, you'd have to be pretty unlucky for them to crush it straight up. Like a lot of the time, that's like if you were caught doing donuts at the front of the kindergarten or something, then yeah, they're probably gonna, they're gonna crush your car. But like if you were just driving your hot rod down the street and your exhaust is too loud, like they'll just come and tell you like your exhaust is too loud and like fix it sort of thing. But yeah, they do sort of also then go, but if you don't fix it, then yes, we're going to take your registration off you. You know what I mean?
Wild,
so,
yeah. You could just yell at a police officer and make a YouTube video about it here and get away with it. So
yeah. But I guess back to the Dynapack. Yeah, we've had it for like 10 years. Yeah, and it's going good.
Yeah, I remember way back when he got that, he's like, I bought it from Australia, and I'm like, first a hub back then, I was like, it makes sense because Evans is like a super intelligent cyborg, so it makes sense for him to like choose something like that that's been reliable this long. But yeah, I had my car there forever ago. I built a Turbo Civic and had him tune it for fun. As like he didn't really know who I was, but I just did my own stupid car stuff. But he's always had a business. He's a professional, and I'm totally not. But I built a Turbo Civic, and I kind of trolled him. Like I bought injectors and ECU pre-flashed from him, Honda, and then I set up a tuning day with him and everything, and I had him tune it, and I acted like a total idiot and just annoyed him the whole time. And then towards the end, like when he was making good power, I'm like, oh yeah, did you end up after saying the dumbest shit in the world? I'm like, oh, did you end up on like 25 pounds and like closer to 10 degrees, getting close to single digits, and you're quitting, right? And he looks at me like, what the hell? Because that's exactly where I had ended up also, like as far as I didn't want to push it anymore. And I purposely pushed it and broke it a few times and backed it back down. But it was funny to have just like say the dumbest shit to him. Like I put in Champion spark plugs from my lawnmower and some other, I don't know. I just literally for 2 hours I said the dumbest shit. And I could tell I was annoying the hell out of him. So, but after all that, then he's like, oh, you're that guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, that's me.
No, well, I've always really tuned on a hub. I have tuned on a roller before, but yeah, I kind of I cut my teeth on a hub, and then I've always just I just like it. I think honestly, sometimes it's faster if you're doing something sort of complex because once it's sort of on, it's on. You don't have to restrap it or do anything like that. Obviously, wheel spin's not a thing.
Yeah.
I find it very repeatable. Like I could, run a car, make no change and see no change in the dyno, which I think is good. Definitely one of the things with the Dynapack is their torque holding ability is not the highest. Ours is the biggest, like the one what I use is the highest rated one, which is like 4,500 Newton meters at the axle. So per axle. So, but if you think about that, that's really not that hard to do. Like that'd be like, it's like 3,500 foot-pounds or whatever. It's somewhere around there, but it's 4,500 Newton meters is what it is. So even a car, like say, for example, if you get a LS car, a lot of the time, if we're making up over 1,000, we have to sort of bring the boost in and ride the torque limit to be able to get there. If we just tried to smack it, you know what I mean? It would over torque the dyno straight away.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Does the car just, does it go to is it like a clutch or like a tire spin then? Does it just, the dyno can't
what it'll
hold
do
it back?
is it tries to just clamp at the point where you've exceeded it. And it basically just flashes a big red screen and says, over torque, reduce torque.
Oh, it's like, hey, I can't hold it. Don't. Please stop.
Yeah, it says like, don't back off. You know what I mean? Having said that, I've done it a lot of times now, and like, it's not like you shut the system down, turn it back on again, and be like, okay, I just got to bring the boost in a little slower through there. You know what I mean? A lot of the time when I'm dyno tuning a car like that, we'll just have the boost profiled off drive shaft speed or something, so I can literally just watch it and just try and like ride that torque limit as long as I can.
Yeah, that is interesting because I mean, I obviously love, like, I'd love to have like a load bearing or whatever, but I have like a funny situation where I inherited basically the dyno that I use, and it's just a inertia roller, and I've used ones with load bearing, and it's nice to have, but definitely for higher horsepower stuff, I wish I had it. Every now and then, I'll take a friend of mine that I tune at, also Maple Grove Automotive. He has the same exact dyno I have, but with the eddy current brake.
Yep.
And it is nice, but what's funny is you might have done it too, but depending on how many dynos you've used. But like I have a DynoJet 224, the 24-inch roller. So some cars won't make, especially a diesel that definitely doesn't have like, it's not pulling a 60,000-pound trailer. It has trouble hitting full boost on an inertia dyno that weighs 2,000 pounds and the truck weighs 10. So that's not appropriate situation. But for a lot of things, it works great.
Hey, do you need anything?
Coffee?
No, I'm making coffee.
Whoa,
Want
yeah.
coffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got offered coffee. I'm not gonna say no.
Wow.
Oh, where was it? I noticed like you nicked the head gasket, and I was gonna say, yeah, what's funny on an inertia dyno, I would say a small percentage of cars can't hit. So say on the street it makes 18 pounds, and on my dyno it makes 14.
Yeah.
Because it's inertia, it doesn't have that. The converter, it's just not hitting exactly the same. And then what's funny is like you're like, we've made 100 passes in this car. I make a stupid dyno hit and rip my head gasket because the dyno can grab the car way lower than it. And that's a thing that like Holdener and I go back and forth with too, because he has that engine dyno and he can put the shittiest twin turbos on in the world and spool the thing at like 2,000 RPM. And I'm like, you can brick wall that. He knows it too, but I'm like, guys, you can't. That measured amount of torque. What I've noticed is on my inertia dyno, I don't make nearly as much torque as the loaded dyno does.
Yeah.
Because it can just grab the converter and everything down low. And whereas when I'm freewheeling it, just with the 2,000 pounds, it doesn't happen. But it's like
I think
same but different.
Like I said, that where we nicked the head gasket in the car, that was actually when we pulled the head off it and pulled the wastegate off. The wastegate was literally seized in the guide again. I'd had a couple problems. One, the first time we put that car together at the track, we started the car up on the third day. Like it was like drag and drive event, and the third day of the drag and drive event, the car started up, and you could hear the exhaust gas just coming out of the wastegate at idle.
Oh,
and
it got a little stem.
And yeah, and the valve was locked in the stem, like literally, like you couldn't move it. It was stuck like 5 mil off the seat. So we ended up pulling it apart at the track and like ran a drill bit through it. And I had like emery tape and put the head of the valve of the wastegate in a drill, and then had some emery tape on some pliers to like linish the shaft back again, and like all this stuff. I was like, okay, I need to change this wastegate. But then at the same time, I put it back together, and then it seemed to work half okay. So I just left
it must have got a
what I
burr.
mean? And
So
then,
it was
and
just
then
that.
literally on the dyno, we're making that video, and it's just like, it's never like I've run 100% duty every single time, third and fourth gear, 100% duty.
You fire up a video camera and it's lunch meat.
Yeah, literally this time, and the boost just goes straight to like 32, and then like you're saying, like because it's a load bearing dyno, it tries to make the RPM graph perfectly linear every time. So you tell it like, okay, I want you to go from 3,000 RPM to 8,000 RPM. And then you tell it an RPM per second to target. And so say, for example, we're ramping it at 600 RPM a second.
Yeah.
But then as the car starts to make torque really aggressively, what it does is it tries to load it. Exactly. It's a PID loop. So it's trying to forward feed and crab the car down. And so what it ended up doing, if you look at the data log, is the RPM came up and then it just like flatlined at like 4,500 RPM and like 32 pounds of boost and just kicked the gasket. I was like, it's like literally if that was on the street, it would have just zapped the tires. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
It wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? So it's like at the same time, it's like, yeah, that was kind of because we were on here that it did that because anyway. But yeah, like I said, if the gate didn't stick, it would have been fine also. But anyway, you get that.
Yeah, I remember him saying that you guys found a burr when you took it apart.
Oh yeah, it was. We literally, you put your foot up, your fingers on the valve, and it just is so. It's just so notchy. It's like it's just galled up the shaft again, which I was like, that's my fault. I knew it was dodgy. I should have changed it.
I've done that too. Put it in a press, and the valve guide is like relaxed and it slides now, and you put a drift pin in, and you like ball peen the edges around so it can't slide. Yeah, you do some disgusting stuff and the car runs and then you forget about it. Yeah. I always say like let's tell ourselves we'll fix it later, when you're doing something like that. You're like, yeah, we'll fix it later, right? And find it broken.
It's one of those things. Like we needed to get it working for the day of racing, and then it worked, and then it did a whole nother like 2 events after that with that, and then it's like oh, okay, maybe it's okay. The camera
did it.
Yeah,
I'm used to that too. Like if I do a project and I'm like, if I say it's gonna do this, it's never gonna do it. So I did one called 8s for 8, and I was like, this thing is gonna. Anytime I deem something, I build like almost 100% streetable cars. The 8s for 8 was like the only one I deemed like a real race car. Like we had to tow it to the track, and I was like, this thing is definitely gonna eat my lunch. It did a little bit.
How did it go? I'm assuming it was a success.
Yeah, yeah. It went 8s for 8, but like I had every strange failure I've never had ever because, I said it would do that and it would do that on, but oh
Yeah,
man.
I'm not going on camera.
No, you have to come over really far for them to see you.
It's really hot. Enjoy.
Thank you.
No.
Does not want to be on camera.
Roger.
Is it growing good?
Yeah. Want to say hi?
Is it just one person?
Yeah. It's Aussie.
Yeah, what does he do?
He tunes.
A real tuner?
He's a real tuner.
Oh.
My wife always says, "Is that a real tuner?" Because I'm not a tuner.
What's his special?
Close that. I can feel it.
What's his special?
Specialize? I don't know. You said you do a lot. You do like Subaru, K Series, LS, Barra.
Well, you specialize in LS.
Yeah.
I
2J
primarily
RB.
do Turbo LS. Yeah.
What does he specialize?
He does like everything. Yeah, he's a real tuner.
Real tuna.
Real tuna.
Okay.
TUNA or TOONA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
What time is it in Australia right now?
Did you hear that?
What time? It's 12:30.
PM.
PM, so it's time to go
On Sunday.
punch a freaking kangaroo.
Did you hear what she said?
No,
Time
I
to
couldn't
punch
hear
a
that.
kangaroo in the face. That's what she said.
I'd have to go find one. They're pretty fast.
Yeah, I hear you really don't. I mean, other than like a wallaby, you don't really want to mess with one because they get gigantic. They're basically like our deer, but much worse, right?
Yeah, I think a big red is pretty big. Like it'll stand taller than you if it stands up.
Yeah, aren't they
it'll
like
be-
on their legs? They're like 7 feet, 250 pounds or something outrageous.
Yeah, and they got claws. Yeah,
Yeah, and they'll grab you and
They're
just
pretty-
eviscerate you with their rear legs and stuff. Or
you'd have to
I
be
read.
pissing them off though. Yeah,
What's that?
you'd have to be pissing them off. They're pretty docile normally.
Oh,
like
okay.
a big red, it'll be like the males can be aggressive. A lot of the time that people get in fights with them is they are trying to rescue their dogs because
I was
if
just
you-
gonna say I heard about that like this year. I've never heard about that before. They will try to drown animals. They'll like
Yeah,
lead them into
yeah.
water and then drown them.
Yeah, they can do. Yeah, they're pretty. Having said that, that's definitely not common. Like,
Oh, okay.
Most of the around here on the east coast, where we are, like closer to the ocean, we just get wallabies and little roos. They're very placid. They just hop away. They're just not interested in you.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised that someone was saying. Like any of the fun ones are just the stupid fun ones, but the asshole ones are like the big desert ones that'll just.
Yeah, more in the middle. They're bigger and more aggressive.
But I feel like everything in the middle of Australia is basically the day is trying to kill you. So.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it? It's summer. You guys are 100% opposite, so it's like hot as hell down there, probably, right?
Yeah, well, right. Today's not too bad because it's raining. But yeah, we've had a string of 35 to 37 degree days. So
What is that?
Celsius.
That's like over 100, right?
over 100. Yeah.
I think 32 or 33 is 90 something, right? So
Yeah, that'll be
30.
right. It's like, was it double it, add 30 or something? Is it rough?
All I know is it's mostly warm there, right? You guys have pretty mild winter though, right?
Yeah. We like where we are. Like it's in the middle of the day, it'll still be sort of like in middle of winter, it'll still be 20s, 21, 22
Oh,
degrees
wow,
Celsius.
that's
So
nice.
yeah, it like doesn't really. We can get cooler at nighttime. Like we'll get down into we'll maybe see 0 degrees Celsius or something because we're a little bit further inland.
Oh, you
But
guys are like
it'll always warm back up to at least like 20 during the day.
you have weather like Georgia or northern Florida.
Yeah, probably very similar to Florida. Very similar to Florida. Yeah.
It rarely ever gets that cold there. All the lizards fall out of the trees. Did you know that?
Yeah, I would imagine that.
Yeah, because they have like a giant invasive species of iguana,
Okay.
like millions of giant iguana, and as soon as it gets cold, those bitches fall out of trees. They literally freeze, and there's always an article that comes out. It's always the same article. A guy like picked up a bunch of. It's Florida, so you shouldn't ask why would someone do this. The answer is it's Florida. He put like 10 of them in the back of his car, a man or a woman, and then they just like warmed up in the car and started going ape shit because they're like, why am I in some guy's car, But But yeah, it is like tons of invasive species in Florida right now. I feel like everything there shouldn't be there, is what people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have crazy weather where I am, like on the east coast of Pennsylvania. Like we're on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains, but it can go into the teens every year for winter, like below zero, and then it'll be
Yeah.
105 on days in the summer.
Wow.
So that's why our roads are destroyed where I live, because you'll have a day, it'll swing, it can go from 20 degrees to 60 degrees and back down to 18 degrees.
Wow.
So everything, like all the ice, will melt into the ground and then freeze, and it'll blow the ground up, and then it'll melt again, and all the snow plows tear out 6-foot chunks of broken road, and yeah, it's a disaster.
That sounds like a disaster.
Yeah, just like my friend Calvin is here with the 4200 stuff. You ever see his stuff?
I don't know if I have. No. He's got a YouTube channel, has he?
Yeah, Nivlak57 is his username here, and that's his YouTube channel. He does they call it the Ameribera. It's the 4200 inline 6.
I have seen that. Actually, I have seen that. I think I have seen that video.
You've definitely seen their channel, because they like pioneer 90% of the engine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I've definitely seen that. I think they were aiming for 1,000 wheel, weren't they? Or
they have like 30 cars. So they've had a bunch of Beras Ameriberas. The 4200's in a lot of stuff, and they do turbo LS. They even have he currently has a Studebaker with a LT based, the newer direct injected motor, and a Tremec TKX, the new 5-speed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I've done a few LT4s and stuff, and ZL1s and that. They're a fun ECU to tune.
Yeah, the newer it gets, the more I can't even imagine what a pain in the ass like they just developed that C8 platform and everything, and I'm like, oh, there's so much complexity there. I just wouldn't want to deal with it at all. I don't know why. Yeah, it's always funny when someone says, like my friend Dale says, Pennsylvania weather is insane. It's always funny because people are like, oh, it's hot here, or it's cold there. So if I ever complain, they're like, just get out of that area. I'm like, it has the entire swing.
You've got the whole spectrum.
Yeah. We literally have people like freeze to death, and then they overheat to death, all in the same year.
That's
I'm like, there's not many places like that. It's either mostly warm or mostly cold.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely we're in the mostly warm category. Yeah. We very...
Whenever anybody comes over here from like Australia, or when I talk to somebody from Europe, or even someone who's only lived like Texas and farther west, they're like, why are the roads awful? It's hard to explain. Like they're just, and then there's no incentive to make a decent road because it's gonna get destroyed. So it's just an awful, never-ending loop.
That'd be hard for the tracks and stuff around your area as well. Would the tracks get affected as well?
A lot of them are like, most of them have like a concrete starting, but yeah, the tracks get beat up too. But it's not as bad because they don't like the track when the weather's bad. That you just leave it alone. But all of our people drive on it, and then they salt it, and then it gets mushy, and then they plow it, and then it freezes. You know what I mean? Like it's the constant beating on the road surface. So at least the track, like, if it snows or whatever, you just let it melt, or they just turn on their jet or whatever to dry it. But the roads just get absolutely wrecked. There's a good one with the RB stuff. That's what I wanted to get more into, like stuff you do with RBs or K series, or I had do nothing with like VVT.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to learn more about it.
So what's it saying? VCT on RB insensitive time. Yeah, that's definitely true. I would say what it is probably and this is definitely my experience, is on most of the RB stuff where it's all standard, it will actually just make more power like everywhere with the cam in the advanced position. So it's probably worth explaining that RB variable cam timing is not like true variable cam timing. It's an on-off solenoid. So the cam has two positions. It's either advanced or it's retarded. And when you turn the solenoid on, it's just an on-off solenoid. On this style of, obviously later we got into proper VVT, but the RB never actually got that. It was just a solenoid that was on or off. It could move the cam into an advanced or a retarded position, and so they just switched that from factory. And what I've found and pretty much all the setups I've seen is that a car will literally make more power damn near everywhere with it just in the advanced position. And I think the big takeaway there is that the actual base timing of the cam you could then suggest is actually like it's way too far retarded in its normal position, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because that everywhere it's better advanced. So it's then that I think we briefly touched on that in the Skid Factory video, is that there is a company over here that make a adjustable pulley that allows you to set. It's like a vernier gear essentially, but it's a vernier gear for the VVT.
Puts it
pulley,
into a much better physical position to use the swing.
Correct. So it's like you can use the normal advanced position as now your zero position, and then you can advance the cam further than that. Yeah, and that's typically what they'll actually want to see. You know what I mean? And so that's probably my sort of take on that. Is that like pretty well all of the setups that I've seen. It will make more power everywhere in the advanced position.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember you like calling that. We call it. My friends and I call that Babe Ruthing something. Like when you call the shot when you're like gonna make 100 horsepower and it makes 100 horsepower, you're like, huh, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's But yeah, definitely. Like we do a heap of engines with VVT. Like obviously the K series is VVT, and like all the EJs, like I do Subarus and stuff. They're all VVT as well. Like most of them are VVT as well. So yeah, Barras are dual VVT. You know what I mean? They're variable valve timing on both the intake and the exhaust cam. Yeah.
And then do you ever see I was at my friend's shop the other day. I stopped for fun. He has a Subaru shop, and he had a car. Like a regular, it was a 2 liter to 2.5 liter, I don't know, Subaru, and it had a 58-55 turbo on it, and it was choking up top, and he was trying to advance or shut the exhaust cam, to try to alleviate some back pressure or something similar. Do you ever see that actually being functional?
Yeah, definitely. Like you can definitely see that. Probably the Barra is a good one to experiment with that on, because like I said, it's dual variable valve timing. But yeah, definitely on a smaller. So Barras come standard over here in the XR6 Turbo, which is what they come in. Like it's the Ford Falcon, which is, you know, it's our taxi car essentially. You know, they make a turbo version of that. And they come with a 35R. So it's a 35 on a 4 liter. You know what I mean? It's a pretty small turbo realistically, like for that engine. So they do have quite high back pressure. And definitely there is power to be gained considerably by essentially at low RPM where the boosted back pressure ratio is favorable. They'll then want quite a lot of overlap. You know what I mean? And then as the car starts to come out through the revs, a lot of the time you'll then move the cams into a position to take some of that overlap away, and there'll actually be a considerable amount of horsepower to be gained there by then making the engine less sensitive to the back pressure because you're moving the valve events in that way.
Yeah, because whatever was up with this combination, it wasn't working. I think he said it had a stock intake manifold or something, and it was just completely capped at like 513-ish. But I was wondering what that would do too. As far it didn't make any change, unfortunately. It was just capped. But I was saying to him, I'd love to have like a K series car on one day, just for like my own learning, like aha events, to mess with the cam so much, because I've never done it.
Yeah, it's definitely quite a lot of fun. Like I said, even the engines that are like dual variable valve timing then have another, because that. Like with a K, it's just variable valve timing on the intake cam. So it's kind of like you just got one, like you're just going to advance it like that. Good to start there for understanding. But then as you get into those dual variable valve timing engines, it's like opens up a whole...
You can basically change the entire camshaft.
Oh, absolutely. Because you can change the lobe separation angle, you know what I mean? Like as well as not, you know, like, which you're obviously doing anyway, but you can fully, you know, you can really get crazy with it. And I've done probably one of the cars that was like, I think about that. We do a modified production speedway car, which is like circle track sort of stuff over here. It's like a 6-cylinder class and it's got the Toyota 2GR engine in it, which you guys would get over there as well. And that's dual variable valve timing. And yeah, there's like a huge amount of like a massive amount of power and torque and stuff to be gained by like, because playing around with those cams. So yeah, like there's a very, very impressive if you're playing around with it and you got the time to go through it thoroughly. Is like it's pretty wild how much how flat you can make that torque curve by really optimizing those cam angles.
Yeah, I would love to like see if my brain can get around that. Like once I would lay one out, like if something would start to make sense in my head. Like
I think it would. I think like you've said with almost everything though, like I've heard some of your previous stuff, like with tuning, it's like just like tuning fuel or tuning
once you
spark advance or whatever.
I just love to scratch that part of my brain, like by moving it and seeing exactly what it does. And then I'm one of those, I'd probably do sweeps where like I put the cams all the way back and then I make a pull and then I move the cam like whatever degree I can and see where they must start to intersect at some point. And you can probably just like ride that angle the whole way. Well, you change the angle of the whole curve to produce the highest.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly like you're saying. That's exactly what I would normally do. Like, you'd normally get the engine roughed in, and then you would obviously, like, I sometimes, and for filming on the Skid Factory, sometimes we'll show that. But a lot of the times, if I'm used to a certain combination, I'll skip right ahead and I'll put a VVT map in the car that I think
you throw in. It's just like a spark table, is going to be 90% functional. You just go right to it.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll move that VVT table like globally up or down just to see, because I can look, like you said, across the whole curve. You can look and go, okay, it wanted more advanced there, it wanted less there, by doing that thing. But definitely, if it's a combo I'm not familiar with, like the first time I turned that 2GR in that Speedway car, I did the exact same thing. I got the whole thing sort of roughed out with zero cam angle, both cams just on their hard stops. I started incrementally just moving the intake cam. And then I moved the exhaust cam, and then I was doing them both together. And then it's not a quick process. Like it must
at least
gonna spend a few hours on it. Yeah,
that's why when I see like those dual overhead cam, multiple whatever K series with the turbo, I'm like, man, how? I mean, I guess they have some stuff fleshed out, but I'm like, you have so many angles per, and then like all of a sudden, because Calvin has done this also. He's probably gonna start chiming in, but at a certain amount of boost, he saw that changing, it obviously worked at like lower boost, great, but at higher boost, no. But that's, again, I think he was using a neutered kind of cam control because he's not using the factory cam control. So he might be on-offing it instead of having multiple positions. But he ran into funny instances where he saw more or less back pressure, more or less horsepower, and like not much of it had a good correlation at all.
Yeah.
So that's
I'd say that's definitely fair.
Yeah, he's like, I threw a bunch of angle at it, and it killed power and boost and whatever, and I'm like, wow, whoa, what a disgusting change. But
I've definitely seen, like, because you can definitely get even like tuning it with blower cars is quite good as well. But like you will see sometimes, like typically a blower car, like say a Coyote blower car or something like that, you'll see sometimes where the cam angle, we'll make a cam angle change, the boost pressure, measured boost pressure will drop, but the car will pick up like 30 wheel or something like that. And so then that's you can straight away, it makes logical sense in your mind. And we're going, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. It's being able to actually trap more air in the cylinder, hence why we're not measuring as much boost in the manifold.
Yep.
Similarly, you can see the same thing, like Calvin would have said, like moving cam angle, sometimes the turbo will like fall off or whatever. And you're going, I must have created a position where we can bleed too much of it through the engine now. You know what I mean? So it's
too much overlap or something. I just thought it was interesting because my brain immediately was like, well, the turbo will just change its speed to make whatever pressure. But I'm like, no, if you move valve events enough, that doesn't make it doesn't correlate. It says exhaust VVT only.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
On the 4200.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. It must be wild to have both. Because, you could, like, screw up, or you could take a combination that works fine and just make it terrible on both sides, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like, one of the engines that's very typical for that, like, the Barra is actually a unique. So, one of the things that's in most engines, you could say, like, pretty much everything bar the Barra, for example, they normally will start where the intake cam is on its most retarded point on the lock pin. And then when the VVT is active, it will advance the cam from that point. And then the exhaust is the opposite. So it starts at the most advanced position and it's retarded with the VVT. That's very common for like just about every engine manufacturer is how they set it up. Whereas the Barra is the opposite from that, or not the opposite, but it's the exhaust is the same. So it starts retarded on the lock pin and then it's it starts retarded and it can be advanced. And that's where on the Barra it's very interesting is that they do that both for the intake and the exhaust cam. So they're both exactly the same. So they start a Barra on the lock pin is at the most retarded position. And so what will happen is that the intake cam on a Barra tunes like backwards to like every other engine you'll ever come across. You know what I mean? Because
the starting point is in a different spot. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And I don't know why. I actually don't know why Ford did that because they don't even do it on the other engines. It's just the Barra. I don't know why. But
they might have mathematically just made the part wrong and we're like, well, you can work around it. We made so many of them and we're screwed. So just.
And that's the funny thing with it is that if you like have no VVT on the intake cam of a Barra, it's like it's lucky to move out of its own way. You know what I mean? Because it's got a 60-degree swing on the VVT actuator. So,
60?
Yeah. 60. That's what they have, 60. So 60
Can
on the
you,
intake and 60
stock nick a valve? Jeez.
No, they don't. Yeah.
60 seems like a lot.
Yeah, they have a 60-degree swing. So but yeah, like if you start them up and they're like in the not working, it's like that thing will be a turd. Like it's literally lucky to get out of its own way.
Yeah, no movements, no valve movements. Yeah, this is funny. Yeah, you should definitely talk about. I was gonna say this too, like some of the worst stuff you've seen on the dyno, like to show up. Those are always funny stories. I got to use the little boys' room so you can start going off. You can soapbox about some piece of shit cars.
Yeah, no, I'll see. Was it? Yeah, so the 4200, what's it? Most advanced and you retard. Yeah, so that'd be typical for an exhaust cam, and yeah, that's how the Barra has the intake cam as well, which is backwards for most engines. But most engines, you like a Subaru EJ or something like that, would be it's retarded and you advance the intake cam. Whereas the Barra, don't know why. Maybe a Ford can let us know, but they did it so the exhaust and the intake cam are both the same. So yeah, they start advance and then we retard, which is just backwards to everything. What do we got here? K series is 50. Yep, that's only on the 25 on the normal gear. The 50s are, I think that's an Integra Type R gear or something. From memory, I just have a 25-degree gear in our car. What else have we got? AU single overhead cam. Yeah, K2425. Single overhead cam VVT. Honestly, have not checked it. That engine's not the most common. I've changed a heap of single cams, but I haven't actually done one with the variable valve timing. That was like a Tickford thing, I think, from memory. Logistic dizzy, static timing, idle swings up and down. The terminator causes idle surge. Only static timer check. Yeah, that's not uncommon. If you have fixed timing, that the idle will sometimes vary. It's probably because it's probably moving around in a fuel map area. Maybe swinging rich and lean or something like that. But yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. Just get your timing set. And then I was just saying about that Terminator one. He's saying he's idle swinging around when he's got it locked. And then I'm like, that's not uncommon if you haven't finished tuning the fuel map. If you got the timing locked, a lot of the time that idle can move around.
I always try to tell people, like whenever I do show anybody the laptop or anything on videos, when you're first hashing out a car, you should just do what I call block tuning. So if you're idling right here, you should grab this block and just put a 40, like if there's a little cell where you got it running good, it's just translating, it's interpolating all, like dump in a 45 for like a fuel amount for that whole block. Because I feel like when I'm ironing out a table, what's going to happen is when you fix a spot, the car will usually fall into another or want to do, so it'll end up just doing hunting is what it's called. So if you go into your spark table and you're like blah 18, and you go to your fuel table and you go blah 45 and hit enter, and it's in the 13.0 air fuel, awesome. Then you can, I would say a lot of times people, 90% of the time with a Terminator installed with a drive-by cable, you're going to have to make a physical throttle stop adjustment the whole time until the car's warmed up and everything, and then get that stop position into the single digits, or else that's going to be, I would say a lot of people come to the dyno where it's like hot idling at 60% IAC. It's obviously struggling. Yep. So yeah, it's pretty normal to struggle with idle, guys. Unless you do it every day for 13 years and you're like, oh yeah, just beep, oh, beep.
I think, is it, so then Nivlak, that's the 4200 guy. He's asking about Holden 186. That's like, I don't know if you guys got them. I'm assuming not. But yeah, they're like a very old engine. They're very old. They're okay. They were very popular. We haven't had, I haven't tuned one of those in so long. I haven't even seen one in a while. But yeah, they were cool.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that too. I was going to have you talk about Haltech stuff, because I like hearing about Haltech stuff, especially because they make that, they just came out with the Rebel that's meant to be a Terminator. And
I've got like 3 of those on order for customers, so I'm really keen to see. Yeah.
I'd love to, I want to get one simply to develop, because I do a lot of plug and play stuff for Holly. I'd love to get that, because I think I can see when I zoom in on photos of the engine harness wiring, it has IO stuff and like DT connectors, so I could make, plug and play.
Yeah,
stuff.
Absolutely could. Yeah, you could make your own little plugins and stuff. I think it'll be really, really good. Like, I feel like I could. I mean, yeah, if you guys got some specific questions on Haltech versus Holly, because I tuned both, so like a lot. So yeah, I feel like I'm fairly can answer, or make a good comparison, because I think both have strengths and weaknesses. Like, honestly.
Yeah, of course. I think all of them are. Yeah, it's just like, it always ends up being people, at least that watch what I watch. It's obviously catered to like Turbo LS, and it's hard to fight that combination. And I do have Holly sponsors some of the stuff that I do, and I have like a working relationship with them. But I also have about an hour from here in Pottstown, EFI Source makes Megasquirt ECUs in-house, like
cool,
over here. So I do stuff with them too. And it's funny, like when the Rebel came out, or actually when the Holly came out, a lot of people were kind of upset. They're like, you abandoned Megasquirt. And I'm like, well, the Holly option was like $3,000 for a Dominator setup, and then like it's $800 to $400 for Megasquirt. So that's why. And then they came out with the Terminator, obviously, like wideband ECU, screen, and wiring harness. Like, how do we beat this? You can't. But it's interesting to see the Haltech stuff. I've tuned a few Haltech things, and what's funny is from like their base, I would change like a ton of, I'd love to do a base tune for like an LS and change all of the tables, because physically, like, the fuel table moves in a different direction than I like to see. It's kind of like con data.
Yep.
A lot of the base, it moves in directions I don't like. So I have to like change.
You can change that.
I have to. I have. What's funny is a guy's car that I tune. A lot of his stuff is on Haltech, and I have completely changed a bunch of his layouts. I'm like, we're gonna take some extra time tonight, and I'm gonna completely change your XY axis and learn how to do this, because I can't figure out, and it's annoying for me to set the limits. And I eventually figured out a way to like do a fast interpolation. But it's crazy how quick you can like restructure an entire fuel table on a Holly car, because you can just interpolate the raw corners.
Yeah.
And then everything else you have to do like a wizard and type in cells, and
yeah, that's true. Yep. To rebin a table, definitely. With the one thing I will say though, with the Haltech is great, and I actually use it as a cheat thing between the Holly. So with the Holly, if you rescale your load axis, for example, like you've got to, like, it's not I'm sure they haven't fixed it. It's not an automated process. So if you like, say you go to 200 kPa or something, and then you add a 4-bar map sensor and you want to scale it out to whatever, you're gonna have to do that manually by yourself. Whereas with Haltech, you can, if you do that, it will automatically rescale it. So I actually do it. If I'm on a Holly car, I can just copy the whole fuel table into the Haltech software, rebin it in the Haltech software, then copy it back into the Holly, and it'll automatically do it for you. Like and I use it all the time. You can do it on Cobb and anything.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
like that
So
part
it
of
takes,
the Haltech
yeah.
software is excellent.
Because Holly does ask you, and if you make the mistake of clicking yes, it takes your accurate table and completely rescales it, and you have to shift everything below. Yeah, I know what you mean. So the Haltech does that automatically. That's nice. Yeah,
Say for example, like a spark table or whatever. Like, say you want to do it, but you're like, maybe you want some more resolution around a cruise area or something, and you're like, man, this is going to take me ages. You can literally just copy the Holly Spark map into the Haltech software, rebin it in that, and you make the axes what you had. Like I've got like spreadsheets and stuff to help make it faster, but you can literally just copy it across, then copy it back again, and it's done. You just copy the axes in, you know what I mean? It just does it straight away.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, I guess I always end up putting in the similar table, and then I feel like it's easy for me to just change the upper limit and reinterpolate, and then change the numbers before I do any of that. I don't know. But nice
obviously, starting from the start would be the best option. But
but if you have to make a big change, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that I knew it would scale, but I didn't know that it would not ruin your other part and then expand for you.
It'll preserve it. You can go through and then you can rebin it, and it'll be dead accurate. It's that part of the software is nice. Yeah,
that is interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say I like their built-in safeties. It's not too bad. I always tell people to, because of the more if I have some people I know and we're really leaning on a stock bottom end combo, I like to push them into coolant pressure also. So it's funny that like the Corolla ran into that too. But then I build a custom output, and then I turn that output on in the boost control settings. It has that spark cut setting in the bottom. It's like some weird secret setting. So you might do similar, and then I have an output of a virtual output named safety, and then on that drop down it says if safety is active, cut spark or revert to wastegate or whatever. But I have it cut spark, and then you can say like if boost is over, if coolant pressure is over, if, and then it'll cut the spark on you.
Yeah, no, I do the same exact thing. I use that, like, it's the very last thing in the boost control ICF or whatever. It's like, if this output's active, then you can tell it to do whatever. And
build a big virtual safety guy. Like oil pressure.
Yeah, and then you configure in outputs, you would have one for oil pressure or fuel pressure or this, and then they all link back to that main safety becoming active. So that like, obviously there's a workaround in Holly to do that, but in the Haltech there, it's kind of natively there, you know what I mean?
They have like a little health and safety first aid kit. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is good is, like, with that, for example, say like you're doing an oil pressure safety or something like that. Obviously in the Holly, we'd normally do it with, like you're talking about, you'd have an oil pressure safety. You'd say if the RPM's above 1500 and the oil pressure's below whatever, you know what I mean? Then the oil pressure safety is going to be active, or however you want to do it. Whereas on the Haltech, it's actually it can be a 3D table, you know what I mean, or like a table where you can plot the expected oil pressure versus engine RPM, and then you can have a 3D threshold of if it goes below that, and then a delay time as well, and then you can also have a post-start lockout, you know what I mean? So you can have it of like, don't become active before 8 seconds of engine run time, all this sort of stuff. Where
I like that all that's built in.
All that's built in, like it's there. And I mean, obviously it does take time to set it up, but it's when it is set up, you can have it where it just works like exactly how you would expect it to.
It's like it's OE plus is what I say to people. Like it's how you expect a stock vehicle to work for you the way you want.
I do the same thing, like, because I'm a massive fan of fuel pressure safety as well. So like in the Holly, the way that I implement that, because obviously on a turbo car, especially one that's maybe going to run a whole heap of different boost pressures, just one raw fuel pressure number is not really good enough. So I normally do, in the Holly, I'll do a custom output table that will calculate the differential pressure across the injector. You basically have map up one side and fuel pressure across the other, and then you can calculate the differential across the injector. I then use that as well to correct. You can actually, that works so good for like a fuel pressure loss. You can have that, and it makes the closed loop not have to work as hard. Even though the Holly closed loop, we all know it's like excellent. It's so fast and it's very
ridiculous.
Accurate.
That's why when it came out, I was like, guys, 90% of you just need to get your fueling right and can't. and then this just holds your hand through the. Like, I can't, like, the amount of cars that don't idle, don't do anything but make 850 wheel and go 7s is staggering.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm a massive fan of that, because in the way we do it in Haltech is that we define the injector size, but we can tell the ECU the injector size versus differential pressure.
Yep.
So, and then the way that it does that, because it has that in the fuel model, it knows that if the differential pressure across the injector changes, that the flow rate through the injector has changed. So it'll automatically, if you drop fuel pressure,
nice.
it'll automatically throw duty cycle at it. Like it does it.
I've seen cars where size.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I've seen cars where maybe you'll tune it and it'll be like 1% O2 correction or something like that. And I'll see it like where the fuel filter plugs up, or I've had one where one of the fuses blew on a fuel pump. Like, you know what I mean? So it has like 2 or 3 fuel pumps and one pops a fuse like midway through a run. And I've seen it where the differential fuel pressure has dropped like 20 PSI and the O2 correction has stayed at 1% because the differential table is taking care of it. Slack. And I've seen the same thing on the Holy car. You can do the same thing on the Holy car you just got to do it with an advanced table and then a custom output. But like I said, so slightly getting off track, but where I like that is that in the Haltech, the differential, like in the way I do it in the Holy would be, I just get that. So say we got 58 pounds of base, I would say that if the differential pressure is below 45, then we're going to implement a fuel pressure safety. On the Haltech, we can do the same thing, but again, it's a 3D axis table. So we can say at like, and this is where it can be good in case there's a problem. We can have that under all the vacuum areas of operation in case something's like broken. You know what I mean? Like the only reason it's going to be dropping differential fuel pressure is because it's like plugged up a fuel filter or the fuel pump's like melting the wire off.
Yeah, something awful has happened. Yeah. Something's
wrong. And so, but then allowing you to say that, okay, but if the car's in vacuum, I don't really care about this. Like you have the differential safety at 10 PSI or something. And that way the person can still limp the car off the road and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I like that they have like fairly clear what I call caution and warning, you know? Like you can have like a yellow light, like a check engine light, and then there's like we're shutting your car off.
Yeah.
And you can build those in as far as what I saw.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, you can then take it to, every sensor can have that. Same with the Holy, you just got to do it with a heap of outputs and stuff like that. But I do say that it's just a little nicer. Definitely the flex fuel is like a massive one. Obviously Haltech, I would say it does it properly, so to speak, you know what I mean? Whereas with the Holy, we've got to do it with advanced tables and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, a lot of they give you a lot of those, so it's easy to forgive them, but it's it's like when I was complaining about 6L80E control, and they actually were working on it, and then they deliver like we said, the traction control and all that stuff for free.
Yeah, it's like, okay, You're
like, wow, this is all incredible, but it's still not map-based boost control, which is very simple.
Yeah, like I said, that's like we said earlier. I found my workaround for that is by using the dome control with a
single valve 3-port with a dome.
Single valve 3-port. The first time I did it, I was like, because again, it's just not typical. And for us, we normally tune Haltechs and Lynx and Motechs and Mtrons and this sort of stuff. Like that's very common in our area of the world. And every single one of those ECUs has map-based boost control. Every single one. Like that's the default.
What's funny is a Dominator does.
Yeah, and I know the Dominator has it too.
I remember like when I made a big stink about it when it released, I was like, how are you going to release a budget bottom floor ready for everybody to use with only the most complicated boost control option available? What are you doing? And they were like, well, I don't know what you mean. And I'm like, why don't you put what's in the Dominator in the Terminator? Like you made a software change for no reason. You removed pressure-based, like intake boost-based. And they're like, I don't know what you. I was like, wow, okay, never mind.
Yeah. No, I the first time I was looking through the software, I thought I was doing something wrong because I was like, surely this can't be the only option.
Like when they released it, like 1.0, I'm like, oh, they're probably adding it very soon. And here we are, like 5-6 years later. I feel like it's still not in there. But yeah, that's like I was saying to you, it does work, but usually people end up using all of the inputs before they want or need to do dome, or it's a straight up, like it's a quarter-mile car and they actually want to use dome because they want to have the resolution to throw 40 at it 2 seconds in.
But
no,
that's Yeah, that's definitely a good. But yeah, so that stuff like that, like I said, where there's a few things where you just go, oh, that's pretty weird. It doesn't have that. I sort of,
Yeah,
expect that
early
to be a
on,
basic.
I made videos early on as like a workaround, and I would say crimp one of your input pins to your map sensor wire, and it's like
Yep.
it's dome map, I would call it. And what sucks is for 60% of people that doesn't work that great. So they're
Yeah.
always like, "That's not working for me. What do I do?" And I'm like, "It's not great on some cars. I don't know why, but when you install the dome sensor, it works great. But if you install that as the map sensor, it doesn't. I can't explain it. I don't know why. But when you use
I
it
think
as
I think I can. My take on that would be because the way that the PID is structured, it's designed to chase a dome target, is what it's designed to do, which obviously is a system that has a very small, like it's a very small loop if you think about it. Like it's literally a solenoid filling a thing. So it's like the whole way that they've structured that, and because in Holly we don't get, it's not raw PID terms. It's like
it's a percentage of PID that's
PID
already
terms. It's just a number.
predetermined. Yep.
Yeah, like it's an 8 and a 10 and a 5, and it's like, what does that mean? Whereas like again, some other ECUs, it's actually like they'll tell you exactly what that means. Like it'll say like what the raw number is. It'll be half a percent.
I would say most
PSI
are
of
raw
error
number
or something, like that. Whereas the Holly, they've made it a 0 to 100. Just it's a Holly PID. You know what I mean? It's like you would need to know what that means for your setup. But yeah, like I said, that's probably what I've seen. But yeah, there's I'm just
No, it makes sense because the amount of volume inside the top of the wastegate is like a playing dice, and the volume in the intake for the V8 turbo car is 2 liters, 3 liters. So it's quite a different strategy to target the amount of pressure. But yeah, sometimes on my car it worked great, and then unfortunately for most people it did not. So I just had to constantly tell people, I'm sorry, it doesn't work.
Like I said, I would hire, like obviously if they have the input, and obviously you got the input output module expansion, it probably dome pressure would one that I would say would want to be directly on the ECU board though, because it's a very fast acting input. But I could 100% vouch for that. Like just using the actual turbo, so like the compressor turbo, through a 3-port to the dome, that works excellent. Like I've had a lot of guys who use that, and realistically it's like your map bait boost control, but you just need to add one extra sensor for your dome one, and it actually works pretty good.
Yeah, that's I forget Baytech. I forget his real name. He has a turbo K series with I think it has an 8 HP in it now.
Oh yeah.
He's in Ireland or Scotland. He has a RX-7, an FD RX-7 with a turbo K series and the 8-speed Dodge transmission, I believe now. He used to have a dual clutch 7-speed out of like a M4 style.
BMW, yeah.
It used to have that, and then I remember one time he was on, and he's like, "No, I have an 8 HP now. That thing flies." Though I think he's been like 8s on like a Gavin Bay. Yeah, his name's Gavin.
Yeah.
Now it's compound turbo. It has been all-wheel drive it was all-wheel drive with the dual... No, it wasn't. He made it all-wheel drive when he did the 8 HP, I think. It's wild. It's like every mixture.
Yeah.
But yeah, he can
That's
maybe...
crazy. I'll have to check that car out. That sounds wild.
I think he can update me, but I think he's been 8s on like an airstrip.
Wow.
They have like no
fast.
drag strips in Ireland or Scotland where he is. And it's literally like a stony airstrip. And it's been like a high 8, I think.
That's crazy. That'd be a wicked fun car.
It reminds me of like those Swedish guys. They build like the craziest cars and they have like someone's backyard to race them in.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you guys not have a piece of pavement? Like, just get together. Pave something. Holy cow.
Yeah, for sure.
What was I going to say about, oh yeah. Yeah, it went 8s on the street. Yep. They don't have drag strips. Nope. Wherever he races, it's literally just like it's like a long car park. Scotland. He's updating. Yeah, he's typing it all in there. But yeah, that's a really cool car. That was one of the cars that I was like, man, I want to get this Max ECU because I want to put a dual clutch maybe one day on an LS. And they have like E38 specific stuff they decoded for C6 Z06 application, Max ECU. Because he's running a Max ECU I don't think the max ECU is controlling the 8-speed, though. I think that's got an HTG or one of those.
Oh, a CAN TCU or whatever.
Yeah, one of those. There's like 5 companies
something.
now that do the 8-speed stuff. And I
Yeah.
hear like 2 of them just make the 8-speed blow apart. 2 of them actually work. 2 of them don't work. I hear all sorts of... I don't trust any of them as far as now.
I saw that video that I think everyone saw it. What was it, circulating
In the
a month
car?
or so ago, and
it just blows up and like
blows through the floor pan. Yeah,
it like rev limiters between 3 and 4. It like shift flares and goes bop. It just blows. Like I can't believe it doesn't kill anybody. I can't believe it didn't take that guy's foot off.
Yeah, that was crazy lucky.
It like his foot was literally there on the gas pedal. So I mean, yeah, the max ECU controls the 8-speed. That's disgusting.
That is interesting.
Directly. Wow, I didn't know that. They do a lot of cool stuff. I don't know. I'm not too keen on the software. You ever use it?
Like I said, I've only used it like twice and not enough to have a really good comment on it. You know what I mean? The cars are fairly basic.
Me, yeah. Not enough seat time to say if it's good or... Like, I've tuned 2 or 3 things with Link, and I'm like, man, I'm not a fan of this. There's windows out the wall. Like, why are there so many windows for some simple shit I want to do?
Yeah.
You have that feeling?
I tune Link quite a lot. So I don't mind Link, but I definitely have my layouts. Like, I have a layout strategy that I've made, and then I've locked all the panes so that they don't move around because, I
started doing that, and I started to save it because like I had to close and reopen the software, and I lost like everything that I started to make sense with, and I'm like, damn it. And then I was done tuning that car, and I actually texted Jeff Evans, and I was like, hey, I'm actually tuning a Link. It's a sponsored drift car by Link. It's a E46 BMW with a supercharged LS in it, and I tuned it, and I was like, dude, the layout stuff is just retarded. It took me most of the time just to try to get a layout I could see. And he's like, oh, you should have let me know. I would have sent you my layout. So I'm like, oh, well, that probably would have been easy. Whoops.
Yeah, that's actually good that you can. I do that to any of my customers that we do Link stuff on a lot of the time. I'll be like, I'll send you my layout config in case we ever have to, or like I'm just trying to explain to them I want to check something. I'll be like, that way we're looking at the same screens.
Everybody,
because I can just email it to them and they can open it up. Yeah.
That's why I give away like weird fractional files. Like when I did HP Tuner stuff a lot, I have all the configs. Like people can just download them out of my tuning like bin stuff. Like you can just take these configs because people probably, I mean, some people know like HP Tuners, if you're not logging it, you'll never see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then like when you tell them like a Holly is literally logging 4,500 things, and you can go back 7 years from now and look at something dumb. Yeah, that stuff's nice. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I did not like that Link ECU that I messed with. I could not. We tried changing. It has the it's a stock drive-by cable 4-pin IAC.
Yep.
I could not make the car consistently start and idle at all, hot or cold. Like it seemed like it was just wandering around doing whatever the hell it wanted to.
Yeah, some of that can be with the Link. They kind of intended it to have an ECU hold power is one of the things that they did. So they intend that they want you to wire the ECU so that when you turn the ignition off, the ECU can keep the power active, and then it will reset the IAC, and then it will shut itself down after it's done that. And if you don't wire it like that and the ECU just goes off as soon as you turn the key off, it can be an absolute prick to make that stuff work right.
Yeah, that's what seemed like was happening. So they must have been shutting off whatever battery. All drift car people like to shut off their battery for like a shut off. That had like Link PDUs and everything in it, but man, the software was really hard to rein in the way I wanted. And then like just randomly, like in between starts, I'm like, oh, I'll just work on my starting in between these dyno hits, and I'm like, it is awful now, and now it's okay, and now it's back to totally awful, and I didn't make any changes the last 3 times, and it hit all of those pieces of the spectrum too. I was just not happy with them.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be frustrating.
I hate being that guy that like, oh, who tuned this? Oh, Matt Happel did, and like you reach in and key the car, and it's like church. I'm like, oh, don't even tell anybody. Don't tell anybody I touched it. If you can't reach in the window and start it, I don't even want to be associated with having done anything with it. Ugh. Oh yeah, my friend Cody Rose, Codeman Rose here. He always likes to.
Yeah.
He does a lot of PO1 like stock ECU modifications and stuff, and he
Yep.
always says like PO1 in a bathtub, like it doesn't care, you know. But yeah,
Or,
I just like can't stand.
or is
tuning.
that so that it doesn't have an error? I've had a few PO1s that if you try and flash them in the car, they cry and they just like won't do it. Then you pull it out, put it on the bench, it flashes first time. I don't know.
It's that's a thing. It might be your cars, like the way the cars are, but like later, especially later Chevys, like the radio can interrupt the can stream when you're trying to flash.
Yeah.
Like dumb shit. Like, and then if you have an aftermarket radio in like an '03 to '06 truck with a P59, like just the radio being on, like some stupid Sony stereo, you can't flash the truck.
Yeah, and I've had cars that doesn't have any rhyme or reason. It's like you flash it 20 times, and then 3 out of those 20 times, it just you got to pull it out and put it on the bench again. It's
Weird. I don't have to do that. I mean, I have a friend who has a tune or a transmission business, A&H transmission. My buddy Cameron, and I built him a bench harness because some of the stuff they do, yeah, it's a real bitch in the car. And he's like, I don't even want to deal with it deciding to start flashing and do that 45-minute shit. And now you have to babysit it so it doesn't brick itself. Yeah, he's like on a bench, doesn't do any of that, flashes in 32 seconds. Yeah, I would say the same thing. Someone just said bad ground. I would say, yeah, there's like some green ground cables in there, but you can't find them.
Exactly. It's like in a car that's come in and it's you're not pulling the thing apart. It's like, a lot of the time I agree. It's like just pull it out, put it in the bench, it'll flash, like I said, 30 seconds, put it back in, it's done. It's like,
yeah, HP Tuners is very, it looks at the battery voltage. I don't know if it's ECU protection or if it's HP Tuners, because Calvin Nelson, Nivlac on here, at one point they had a 16-volt battery setup in a Eagle Talon with a front-wheel drive LS4 V8 in it.
okay.
And it would not flash the ECU on 16 volts. It had like a protection. So it was HP Tuners was looking at the voltage and saying no, or the ECU itself is like, something's not right. So we actually ended up having to plug in an AC adapter to the wall with like 12 volts and putting that through the OBD2 port only so that we could flash the ECU. Ridiculous.
Yeah, that.
But
as
similarly,
people have said with battery voltage, like
I
I've even seen those cars where you've got it on a battery, like a big charger that'll hold it at 13, but it still makes no difference. It's like, I don't know. That again, it's like it's like just pull it out and do it on the bench.
Yeah, there's too many things. Yeah, that happens too. Like sometimes for a while, I felt like a lot of my middle year, like when Terminator first came out till now, in the middle for a while there, people didn't have their grounds right, or firmware was sensitive or something, but people were like all bricking their Terminators all the time. And yeah, similarly, like I was doing a thing where if people would complain about it on the internet, I'm like, hey, I have an entire bench set up. I think I've done 100 of them and 99 of them have been fixed. If you want to send me that, I'll try, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, similarly.
I've seen a few people upgrading to trying to upgrade to V3 from V2 with a laptop, and it seems to sometimes just randomly drop, but then you can normally bring it back to life with a handheld or whatever. But I think sometimes if they've got the dash plugged in, I tell them to unplug everything out of the can plugs.
Yeah, they need it. I mean, that's Holly's recommendation, is because other stuff, it's the same like with the stupid GM cars, it'll interrupt the flash because the radio like wants to turn itself off. It's some dumb shit happens. But yeah, similarly, too many things on the can. But yeah, that's I've never had the issue either way. But I have like bench flashed a bunch of them, and I always fix them with the 3.5. Because the 3.5 doesn't handshake like the software, I feel like. It's not like, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm totally okay. All right, I'm going to flash firmware. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. Are we going to start now? Yeah. The handheld's like, here's your firmware. And it's just like, it's like that meme where the woman's pouring milk down the other person's face. Here's your firmware. Yeah, it just. Yeah. But yeah, like they even say to do all of that, unplug as much as you can. But yeah, I haven't had too many issues with firmware, but I saw a lot of people did, and I don't know what that's. I don't know. It's part of the issue with having a really cheap ECU. Is having like people put it in the crappiest cars and spend the least amount of money on everything, and it's very easy to get power through a car correctly, and almost nobody can do that. So it's tough. It's very rough.
Did you guys have any more specific Haltech-y sort of questions or anything like that? I'm not sure.
Team Microtech. What I was gonna say, what I like is they give you more authority over the drive-by-wire. Holley has a good drive. I love drive-by-wire more than drive-by-cable, and Holley has a good handle of it. But they only give you so much swing on like advanced tables. Do you see that too?
Yeah, definitely.
You can't like shut it. Like you said, like a Haltech, you've had it shutting to like 23% to maintain torque amount. You can move it like if you can floor a Holley car. I don't know if you can get it below 50% on advanced tables. I think 20 sometimes is like the maximum you can yank. Yeah,
well, that's where and a few other ECUs have that. Like the Haltech has it's got a pedal to pedal to throttle conversion.
Oh, Holley has that too. Yeah, it's nice.
And then it also has a separate table, which is a max angle table, which is again can do 4D axis on that.
Oh, okay.
So you can have it of like, this is the translation, this is the request to demand, and then you can have a clamp. And like I said, that clamp table can be 4D axis. So that's where you can do some pretty cool stuff with that. Like you can do it with traction control, you can do it with boost control, you can do like I've even have blower cars that have like full on like different boost levels off the drive-by-wire throttle clamp. Like
nice.
You could have a car that's pulleyed to say 20 pounds of boost, and you could then figure out the throttle angle on the dyno, and you could have it where it's got like 600, 700, 800 horsepower on a CAN keypad through the drive-by-wire. Yeah.
You could map it basically an opening point to a pressure point, and if you ask for a certain amount of boost, it'll automatically go to the opening point.
Correct.
Wow. Yep. Yeah, that'll feel really smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how, because I had a G35 I swapped a couple years ago with a 4.8 and an LSA blower and a CD09 Nissan manual gearbox, and it made like 17 pounds. It was pulleyed to the moon. It made 17 pounds at like 1600 RPM.
Yep.
So that could be very lurchy because it had a short ratio box. It had like a 355 gear, and it had the blower that just wanted to make almost 20 pounds all the time. So it was neat to be able to mute that, put an exponential curve in, and it would drive like my stock Kia.
Yeah, for sure.
It was awesome.
What someone else just asking about, Haltech have something similar to advanced tables on Holley. So they do, but essentially it's it doesn't look like the advanced tables, but it's like the way that I would say it is like, so I would say, what are you trying to do with advanced tables in the Holley? And then there's just a different way to achieve it in the Haltech. So if you were trying to do, say, like a fuel compensation or something, they have like literally, I think there's like 20 fuel compensation tables that are completely configurable if you want to, you know what I mean?
What I've seen as like Holley has like you have to go to a other place to modify something. Like the advanced tables are where you do all the advancements. And what I've noticed on my short stint of like messing with Haltech cars is if you want to change something in the fueling, you enable an option on that. You go to the fuel pane, the main one, and there's checkboxes that are like ethanol, this, that. And then once you check that, it becomes a fuel table part of the file tree. And then you get the exact thing you want in the drop down with the fueling. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. Like if you wanted, like you're saying, or say you wanted to, whatever it is, like if you have a feature and you go, I want it to be an advanced feature, it's a lot of the time, like I said, like you can have it will be in there. Like if you want a fuel correction for intake air temp or whatever, like that's just standard in there, you know what I mean? But anything, like I would run, like say we have ignition retards versus like a common one is, so say a traction control strategy is probably one of the best ones where I'll use some advanced sort of features. So we'd have the ECU will calculate slip rate through the front and rear wheels, but then you can then tell it what to do. So in the traction control, it will have like a cutting strategy. So you can tell it under how much slip error we're going to then start to cut the engine, but then you can then use that in an ignition trim And you can have that feed into, like, you can have say a generic ignition correction, which would pull timing, or you could then move that over to, like I said, like if it was a drive-by-wire car, you could then you reference that in a drive-by-wire max clamp axis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where I would say that, yeah, like, so at the same thing of like, does it have the same thing with advanced tables? Yeah, absolutely it does. I would say it's probably goes deeper than that. And then definitely you touched on the flex fuel thing. Like the way that Haltech handles that is that I would say it's what we'd call a true VE model from the start, in that it's doing the density of air entering the engine, and then it's also doing the fuel properties. So when you put a flex sensor on it, it actually knows what the stoichiometric air fuel ratio is. And then, so I've had cars where we've flex tuned, and if you put all of the proper information in, like injector data, your VE table's accurate, and all that sort of stuff is accurate. I've had cars where we've tuned the car on 98, like, which is our pump fuel, like 98 RON. It's the same as yours, 93. And we've dumped that out, put E85 in the car, and literally made like no changes, and it'd be like 2% correction.
That's like every Holly car I touch.
Yeah.
Their fuel model is like perfect also, yeah.
That's with no extra tables. You just tell it that it's flex fuel, and you say that's the sensor.
Oh, I know what you mean. They have the built-in. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, it's built into the fuel model. Yeah,
you have to do the math table. Which I'm like, why don't you guys just have a config for ethanol, and you can turn it on? Because similarly, Megasquirt has the same. They have a base setting where you're like, I have a flex sensor, and then it has like raw, like 0%, 100%, and they're already pre-filled out. But yeah, if all of your sensor data is good, that doesn't need any changing because it's just a linear amount.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where probably the other thing I really like with the way that the Haltech does it slightly differently is instead of needing to do an adder table for your ignition advance for E85, like, it allows you to do 4D access on just about everything. So you can do 4D access on the ignition table. So you can have a main load versus RPM ignition table, but then you can have a fourth axis of fuel content. So you can change it across the entire area anywhere you want, you know what I mean? Because there's like a slider across the bottom that can be ethanol content. So you can have a completely different spark map if you want to. Instead of just having them going, okay, we're going to add 3 degrees when it's got, over 50% ethanol, you can make it so with that 4D mapping, you can have it where exactly where you want to have the timing. You can have it where, because a lot of the time I would find is when you start to push power on ethanol, then you'll start to be looking at things like head gasket sealing and stuff like that, where you might be trying to minimize torque through certain areas and stuff like that. And that's where having that full control of the timing table versus ethanol, I find is just really good. And it's just so simple to set it up, honestly.
I was going to say, because that's what my friend Calvin was asking. If you, like he said, you can right click on any table in Max ECU and add a fourth or third dimension, which is exactly what you just touched on. So he just said there, it answers my question. Because I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you can, because I've done it with Haltech to do like ethanol and whatnot. But yeah, here's a really funny one. One of my friends told me that you might not know that I learned on a sneaky way to do flex on the Holly stuff also is in individual cylinder tuning. You can enable a 3D table and you can offset the axis by flex. So you can just paste them all the same, but you can kind of backdoor and not use any advanced tables or even a 3D table. Because in the individual cylinder mapping, you can enable a 3D table and you can flesh in spark only above, boost only above RPM. But in the individual cylinder table...
Yeah, that's a cool way to do it. Yeah, I haven't done it like that before, but I could definitely see I've used the individual cylinder
multiplier and the spark adder in the individual cylinder tables.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's a cool way to do it. It's How is CAN stuff with the Haltech? Yeah, no, the CAN stuff in the Haltech, I would say, if you're coming from Max, you're going to be, I wouldn't say disappointed, but they have it designed to work with their stuff, right? It's kind of like Holy to some extent, but it's a little more open than that. But yeah, like if you are wanting to do, like, it's designed to work with their boxes, so to speak. Whereas I know that the Max, you can do custom CAN the Link can do the same thing to an extent, you know what I mean? like custom CAN to,
you can just tell it to like
whatever
listen. I watched a live thing on a Max ECU once. I'd love to see like Evans do it, but like I remember they were just like listening and doing something, and like, oh, there it is, and then they started to build out a table for it, and it was on like a stock BMW or some European car that they were messing with.
Yeah, definitely. I would say definitely they have, the one thing that Haltech has done is they have like published their CAN stream. So, and there's heaps of people making third party stuff for the Haltech that like identifies as a Haltech CAN IO box or something like that. Like, so because they've published it. So in that way, it's probably because as far as I'm aware, Haltech, Holly haven't published any of that
they
stuff.
Have
it's
not,
like secret
no.
scribbles.
A lot of people will give you the info if you ask. I have a lot of friends that do custom Holly CAN stuff. Dale, who's posting here, has done custom Holly CAN stuff, like reverse engineered and added stuff. But yeah, I have friends who do like I'm swapping a E92 BMW right now, and a friend of mine that makes like the motor mounts and everything else, Mike Page, he also sells a CAN translation box. So you hook it up to the Holly CAN and the BMW CAN, and it satiates like 90% of the things it's looking for ECU wise, runs the tach, speedometer, and then also it does crazy stuff like you can control the air conditioning, and it even will grab all 4 ABS sensor data, so you could set up a 4-wheel traction control tables and some crazy shit.
So, one part I should touch on is that, so the Haltech does have predefined CAN templates for certain cars. So that's the only thing, like there's a few cars that they make plug-in kits for, that they do have it. So yeah, the Falcon, it like fully replaces the stock ECU. Everything works like standard.
So
all the aircon, the 4-wheel speeds, everything all comes in through the ECU. That also works for some of the Subaru stuff as well. And like anything that they say they have like a plug-in for a lot of the time, I think they have it on the Polaris as well. What is it, like a YZR or something like that, or whatever? It makes all that stuff work like factory as well. But yeah, so if you go on the software, it's in there in the CAN settings. It has all the vehicles that they have CAN templates for. But I will say, like, it's relatively limited at the moment. And it's just like really a few sort of key cars that they have in there with the CAN templates defined. But yeah, it doesn't have the ability to have a CAN, like it doesn't have CAN sniffer natively in the software like the Max does or anything like that. And then you don't have the ability to, not yet, but the good thing with Haltech, they do add stuff all the time, but you don't have the ability to set up like your own custom CAN output channels and stuff, which I know a lot of people like about the Max. And the Link is that if you can find the information, you can write the thing to get it to send.
Yeah, if you're a genius, that's why I know like Evans is like, I love Link and Motec and whatever. And I'm like, well, that's because you're a fucking genius, dude. Evans can like, he's like, it's like the movie The Matrix where he's looking at the green code. He's like, oh yeah, there's your ABS sensors right there. Like, dude, okay. And then he just writes stuff for it. I'm like, yeah, it seems easy when you're, flying a fighter jet seems easy when you're a fighter jet pilot.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, like I said, I would say in that way that like, yeah, they have some CAN templates defined. But yeah, it's not, they don't have all of them. But yeah, like I would sort of ask, like, what are you trying to do with it? Because like there's a lot of workarounds that people have done, like say for example like 8 HP control and stuff like that. A lot of those they've done that. Like it's all like there's heaps of cars running 8 HPs and stuff like that with a Haltech. Like so not directly off the ECU, but like with a CAN TCU or something. Yeah.
Joking on my coffee. Oh man, that was awful. Watered my eyes immediately. Oh yeah, there was something I was going to ask about. I have never touched a fuel tech car. What do you think about those ECUs?
Yeah, I've done a couple. I don't mind them. I think there's certain things, my opinion of the fuel tech is it's designed heavily towards the drag racing market. I think
like alcohol drag cars only.
It seems like that's what they've really focused at. But definitely some of the things, if you've ever like used it at the track, their features of their like drag racing traction control features and power management stuff is very quick and easy to set up, because the way, I don't know if you've used it before, but if you do a run at the drags, you can then open that data log in the actual power management area of the software, and it will overlay the drive shaft data, the engine RPM, all that sort of stuff, and it will show you. It's just a very easy way to, if you want to drag the dots, so to speak, and like plot the drive shaft curve.
It overlays like what actually happened with what's on the computer, and people can very easily
Correct. You can
manage
literally just be like
complicated
dot, dot,
stuff.
dot, 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 dot. So it's like very easy to modify run to run, stuff like
It'll
that.
like
I think the
scatter
ability,
plot a drive shaft table for you. It'll show you
yeah,
where
like
you
to an
were.
extent, yeah,
Oh,
it
nice.
overlays it in the software, so you can see the drive shaft curve directly versus what your target drive shaft curve is or wherever. So I think that's really good, and it definitely makes it's very quick and easy to set up. The closed loop control is quite good as well. I would say it's probably very similar to Holly in that, yeah, it's quite fast and it's accurate. Probably the weird thing coming from like most other ECUs, even Holly, for example, is fuel tech like is all primarily pulse width based.
Yeah,
Versus
it has like a no VE is what I hear people complain about.
They do have a drop down where you can they added it in the last update or whatever, where you can do it's like a calculated VE, but it's definitely not a real
The numbers
VE.
don't make sense.
No, as most people would know, like a turbo LS car, for example, is like if you do a hit at wastegate and then you add another 5 pounds of boost to it, the VE numbers, if everything's modeled properly and you're not dropping fuel pressure or something stupid, like it should almost not change. Like until you start to outrun the turbo and you get into back pressure, and then it'll probably nose over a little bit. Like there'll be a big window of operation where the VE numbers will be almost the same.
Weird.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard from people is like the fuel model doesn't exist. It's just something they came up with, and it works and all, but yeah, you don't expect to look at it and have it make sense like you're used to.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely I would say the drag racing traction control stuff, like the ability to do, like say for example, if you're comparing it to a Holly, like versus a with the was it an extra $500 add-on for traction control or wherever it is, that stuff's just in there.
It's all there for free. Yeah.
Yeah, it has all of that stuff straight off the bat. It can do both drive shaft and engine RPM control simultaneously, which is very popular.
Wow.
Obviously, yeah. So you can do, and the Haltech can do that as well. So that's probably the other thing I'd say with the Haltech is like things like if you we're talking the current generation like an R3 or an R5 Haltech, that has all that stuff as well. It has torque management. It can do drive shaft and engine RPM management simultaneously. And that's included in the price of the ECU. You know what I mean? But yeah, the fuel tech does the same thing. It's very nice. Whereas obviously with the Holly, where is it you've got to get that extra torque management add-on and I mean, like I said, not to bash them at all, but it's just one of those things of
that's exactly what I've heard.
Crazy
because I have friends who have like they very clearly need like a Terminator, but they don't want to. They want to do something different. Or like a weird thing is people they did a great business model when they made the dash the ECU, because everyone's like, I get a dash. Like they're just so glossed over. They're like, I get a dash. I'll live with 1,000 things I don't like because I got a 3.5-inch screen. But I mean, it is nice. But yeah, I would say like I have heaps of friends who have like low 4, high 3-second methanol drag cars that can't say enough good shit about fuel tech, because like it just can handle that. It has all of that stuff built in for free. It's easy, like you said, all the same things. But then I have street car friends who want like a 4L80E 6-liter turbo LS car to be street friendly, and I'm like, I cannot recommend it. I don't think that's for you. Yeah.
No, I would agree. Even I think I remember Devin's video like talking about like some of the way that if you're used to Holly or Haltech or about being able to like very easily control outputs like with logic things of like, I want this on with this and this and that, and it's like, nope, it's very, very basic. They have like RPM activated output, a map activated output.
Yeah, there's like nothing.
It feels so neutered, like compared to working with any other platform. You're like, how is there not more options? It's
the software is very bare.
If you use it for what it's intended for, I would say you're like, okay, this is pretty good. Like it definitely does, that well.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember a bunch of people were like, oh, I want to get the fuel tech because it comes with the dash and everybody I know has Holly and I want to be different. And I'm like, okay, you can't expect a reasonable amount of support from your friends that you're going to need. If you do all that, that's fine, but you're going to be there by yourself. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then I feel like we said, it's good for motorsport for that particular drag race. But I feel like they rope people sometimes where they're like, this'll work. And then they're like, but you need 6 boxes.
Yeah.
These 6
Oh,
pan
yeah.
boxes. I feel
Yeah.
Haltech was kind of the same way for a while. I had the same feelings. If you wanted to do a lot with a Haltech, you had to have 6 boxes. Like
100%.
yeah, I've seen people like my buddy Racewires, Troy Baum. He's like an hour away from me that does wiring, same as Devin, and he's a Haltech dealer and he loves Haltech stuff. But he's like installed a Haltech today, and there's like the aluminum panel, and then it's like box,
Yeah.
box, 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 Haltech, 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 and I'm like, yeah, it looks like a fucking Haltech installed the whole passenger side of the car. Yeah, I just say dumb shit like that for fun. But then like a Dominator is a brick with 6 36-pin plugs in it. So
yeah, I would say that, yeah, like definitely obviously Haltech's getting better with the R5, like, and that's more for those types of cars. You mean like the 2500 series, the 2 connector ECU that we'd have been that thing where it's like a whole panel of like 30 boxes or whatever. That was, I mean, I think it was probably, it's just not a good fit. Like you said, like honestly, if you have like a race car and you want to have a shock sensor on every corner of the car and you're going to have this, you
have like 4 inputs. You can't even do all your shocks.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where a Dominator makes sense to do that, because it has the input and output to do it at that time. And so it's like you would have been better off probably doing that. Now, like I said, with the R5, I think that's pretty good. I also agree with, I remember on actually one of Devin's ones where he was saying about the fact it's a PDM mixed with an ECU, like maybe not a great idea. I would typically agree, and I tell people when we're doing a race car with a R series ECU, I would say don't make the ECU do stuff it doesn't have to. You know what I mean? Like, if you keep it more to what it's going to do, like imagine it's like the Dominator, wire it like a Dominator. You know what I mean? I'm even a big fan. I try and keep the thermo fans and stuff all on separate relays and stuff. Have that high current switching outside the ECU. It doesn't need to be in the ECU.
What's funny is someone asked, and I was going to ask the same thing, thoughts on having the PDM in it. But yeah, you're not asking it to do. I would not run a trans brake off of an ECU PDU. That's a lot of.
I've done that a bit, and it seems to work okay on the. I've seen the trans brake, but at the same time, I'm a big fan of just a solid state relay just outside the, because it can take the brunt of it, and it can be outside the main processor.
I just mean I know things like starters, trans brake solenoids, and big coil devices can just dump like crazy voltages back and forth. So yeah, but like you were saying, you have it going to solid state to PWM the like bump or creep or whatever anyway.
Yeah, like I said, I've actually done the direct to one of the high current outputs off the trans brake solenoid. I've done that a handful of times and with very good success and no weird operation of the ECU. But things like thermo fans, like you get people who go crazy and they want to wire the whole car front to back through it. I'm like, don't do that. Like you can use the output to trigger a relay. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason. Like keep that really crazy high current stuff. You're just putting heaps more heat, current, load, everything through it. This just seems like pointless at that point. It's like there's nothing
operate
wrong
the
with
whole
a good
car
relay,
and run 105 amps through it is.
But yeah, definitely. Some of the other thing that's really nice with the Nexus series stuff, they have a 6-axis G sensor inside the ECU. That's the other thing the FuelTech has actually. Excellent. The FuelTech does some really cool stuff with the G sensor inside.
I didn't know they had that in it. I learned something.
Yeah, so the Nexus has it and the FuelTech have it as well. They have the 6-axis, so it's also a gyro and everything. So the FuelTech one, another thing the FuelTech does over the Haltech, I'd say, which is quite good, is it can derive chassis speed off the G data.
Wow.
So if you look, so it will have like a calculated mile an hour of the chassis. You need to calibrate it for each car because it determines orientation and vibration and everything. But once it's calculated and calibrated, it's exceptionally accurate. You can have it where you can look at the calculated time, slip and mile an hour and stuff, and it will lie dead on your. It'll be like a draggy. It's like a draggy built inside the ECU. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Can I have you guys talk amongst yourselves for another minute or two?
Yeah.
I gotta run for just a minute. But yeah, that's
easy.
I was gonna ask some stuff about PDU when I get back then, but I'll mute this for now and you guys can talk amongst yourselves. Does anybody know Mike Myers? You guys, Mike Myers from that Saturday Night Live Talk Amongst Yourselves? I'm feeling verklempt. No?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
No, I can do this. What have we got? Shouldn't suggest you don't need further. Yeah, I would say like I know that they market that as like no fuses, relay, switches. I think that's to target a certain market. But if you had a more serious race car, I would not be doing it like that. That's my personal opinion. I like to try and keep. You want to have less. Less areas for failure. I would have it where you're just having the ECU do normal stuff, like how you would wire a dominator, for example, and then have it do that. Like we'd use a high current outputs for what they're good for. I think it's one of the good things is we normally power a bank of injectors and a bank of coils from there, because you can actually see the live current that the system is drawing, which is quite nice. So things like that, if you're interested in what current, because obviously it logs not only the voltage being supplied, but also logs how much current is being drawn on that. So that can be nice to monitor certain things. But yeah, that's definitely not a, it doesn't need, some things you don't need to monitor that. And then I would say if it's something that is a relatively basic thing, then I would just be, I would put it through a conventional relay and stuff like that. Just get that switching away from the ECU. One, two, Skid Factory. What's up with Al? Yeah, Al's he's off. He's retiring from YouTube. Yeah, he's I think everybody knows that. What else we got? I may have been asked. What's my favorite Skid Factory build? Ooh, that's a good one. I like I think Al's Crown, honestly. I'm just a huge big block fan. That thing's just cool. I just think big blocks are sick. It just does everything it needs to so effortlessly. It sounds cool. It's just a really cool cruiser, I think. Yeah, that for me. And yeah, like I said, I just don't think you can beat the sound of the big block. They sound great. Favorite turbo? That's a hard one. Depends on what you're trying to do. Honestly, we use on our own personal car, we use a Pulsar, which is like a cheap version. It's a cheaper version of turbo, but I have used them on heaps of cars, and I think they're just incredible bang for buck. They are just amazing. So what's the coolest red big block HQ you've worked on? Dave, I know that's you. PSR. PWM fuel pump. Yeah, PWM fuel pumps aren't too bad. I would say that, though, be careful with that. There's definitely some pumps that one of my favorite PWM fuel pumps is the Fuel Lab 5.5. I think that's an excellent piece. It works really, really good, and it's got good speed control. The aeromotive stuff's not too bad either. I do know just like trying to PWM any kind of random pump can sometimes be problematic.
PWM fuel pumps, hell yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the Fuel Lab 5.5 is great. The aeromotive stuff's pretty good too. And yeah. Weirdest thing.
Well, we were talking a little bit about that early. Oh, someone had said, it just popped into my head. Someone had asked probably like an hour ago, how did you get into cars and tuning? And he said...
he
said like ignore if you already answered this, but...
I mean, yeah, sort of covered it. I guess it was like, how we first sort of started. I just had like yard car or paddock bash or whatever you sort of said. That then sort of, and like I was an apprentice mechanic, and so then that sort of revolved around into then building my first Mega Squared ECU, tuning my own car, and then that sort of moved on to tuning friends' cars, and then sort of the rest is history. I've always really sort of tried to better myself as much as I can. I read as much as I can, you know what I mean? Like I've done, I've even looked, from you guys, like even the Evans guys, I've seen it. And I think you can never stop learning in this area, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's always something to be learned from anyone, you know what I mean? So, that's probably the very brief summary, but yeah, essentially always been into cars, mechanic by trade, modify my own stuff, eventually moved into tuning people's cars.
Just started doing dumb shit with cars.
Yep, just doing dumb shit, yeah.
That's funny. What's your favorite bearded man on the Sunshine Coast?
Favorite bearded man?
There's probably a
No,
few.
That's definitely somebody I know, and the funny is because that both of my mates are on there, and so they both have beards, so that's a
He's implying himself.
yeah.
You know, you guys were talking about PWM fuel pumps.
Yeah, they were talking. Yeah, I agree with that. BKS 1000 doesn't do 1,000. Yeah, I agree with that. That's especially on ethanol. Not no way. I think we
Yeah.
had one the other day. It went to about 900 on a E85 through a manual 900, and that was starting to drop fuel pressure.
Mm. Yeah, R5. Yeah, I was gonna say about the R5. That's what I noticed immediately about like the Rebel ECU is because it's like a neutered firmware R3, and it seems like they have coil, fuel injectors, and some other stuff just getting powered, so you don't have to do any wiring. You just connect those battery nipples on the thing, and that's it.
Yeah,
Super smart.
I did touch on as well while you were out. I was saying like. So we do typically. That's actually one that I like is that you can do the injector and coil power off a R series, and then it not only logs the voltage that's being applied on that pin, but it also logs the current that's being drawn by those things. So if you have a problem, it's just another sort of lever you can use to diagnose an issue.
Super
so
cool.
I think that's quite nice.
So yeah. I was just gonna say the same thing. I hope, even though the Rebel may not let you like take full control of those power outputs like you could on an R3 or an R5, it'd be cool if they still let you look at those voltages, which I would assume probably.
Yeah.
You can still monitor them even if you can't completely. I think they even give you two or one of them. I think it's like coil and injectors, and then the other two I think you can actually use.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. Yeah, that they're leaving them open. Yeah, so
but very simple. But it makes sense because people are going to do dumb shit with them, and they're attached to the ECU. Like you said, running 80 amp in-rush current thermo fans like off of 125 amp output.
I know, it's just silly. It's just I don't get it. It's like but the thing that makes is that it's like there's nothing wrong with a 70 amp relay on that thing. You know what I mean? Like it's so simple. It's like just do it like that. It's just,
just put a big relay on it with 3/8 studs on it, so you're not nipping it through a 16 gauge wire on a Haltech.
I mean, you would have seen it, sure. I mean, I know that's one of the things I see frequently is like a 525 fuel pump with a blade 30 amp fuse stuck in it, and it's like the car runs for any more than like 30 minutes, and the fuse like literally turns into liquid around the, like the fuse, the body of the fuse starts to melt before it blows.
It'll turn black and set on fire and melt, and that it'll disconnect itself by melting, not blowing the fuse.
Yeah.
That's how I learned right away that people don't have right grounds. Seasons.
I see that 7675 on a 4.2 liter. I'm assuming that's for the Barra. I feel that to me, I think is a little small on turbine wheel for that. Like depending on how much cam you have in that engine and how hard it wants to turn, but definitely we would see on a Barra that like a 75 mil turbine car typically tops out right around 1,000, and then it's like back pressure's like 2 to 1. And it just doesn't want to go any further
through the roof.
And
what's it called? My brain. Here we go. Yeah, there's 5 here.
The inbuilt scope's also a nice function because you can do
Haltech
the little.
Has that, right?
Yeah, inbuilt scope. Yeah.
Is that on every input you can scope?
Yeah, it depends on what ECU you have, but definitely on an R series, yes. And then the Elite 2500 and 1500, you can do most, but some of the more basic, like the Elite 550, 750 stuff, it's only like certain inputs that you can trigger. Yeah, you can scope. Yeah,
that's wild that you can scope it at all. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's quite good, honestly. It's like great for doing trigger problems or whatever. It's literally inbuilt scope in the ECU. You can just open it up and see it live.
That's what I heard. That's what I'm waiting for, like the Rebel stuff, because I heard that you don't do any setup. You just put the ECU into they have an app. What's funny is Holly's rushing to do application stuff. They released a sniper application now.
Oh, yeah.
So you can plug a Bluetooth module into the sniper, and you can dial in everything on the sniper with the app now. Because I remember when the Rebel said they were coming out that they were going to have a full-on thing. And then what's cool is I saw that you just crank the engine and it identifies the triggers you have.
Yeah.
Simple, like stuff like that no one else is doing. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. So with the 4200 with the, I would definitely, the 7675, that's exactly what I expect that to do. We typically, it depends what you want to do with a Barra, but like a G45 is a pretty good fit. So that's like, that's like an 80 mil turbine. It's not too bad. And then even the S400 stuff actually pairs quite nicely if the converter and everything's there for it. Even, an S400 is not bad. They work pretty good.
S400. Yeah, and then what, I was saying, like, I feel like, doesn't Ford have, well, yeah, they do. They have like a 6R80, no. What's the Ford?
Yeah, 6R80.
The Falcon one, that's fairly good, right? Does that
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a ZF in the Falcon that we got over here. It's the 6HP26, which from what I understand is like, it was the predecessor of the 6R80. I think the 6R80 is slightly beefier in like some certain shafts or something, because I know that an upgrade over here for 6 HPs is ZF6. It's a 6 HP26. The upgrades for those, when they build them, they put like internals out of the later 6R80 in them to make them stronger. But from what I understand, they're like nearly identical. It's just like 6R80 is like an evolution of a 6 HP26 from what I understand.
Are those like I feel like up to a point, like up to like 3/4 race car, they're like, you should just leave it in. But as soon as it's making outrageous power, or if it's super fast, skipping the gears and getting like a 3-speed is easier. But I feel like I've seen a bunch of those go pretty fast with that stock Ford 6-speed.
Yeah, there's guys who've gone real fast on the stock Ford 6-speed.
Like,
they definitely,
reliably.
I think it's the same. I think, exactly, reliably. I think it's the same sort of thing, though. Once you start to sort of get up around that sort of horsepower, you can then start to take advantage of a really well-built torque converter and stuff like that. And the fact that anybody who knows a car that is got the power and has a torque converter that works, like, you can get a really good 60-foot with a 3-speed 400. You know what I mean? If the car's set up for it, it's like, and the converter works and everything, it's like, it's just so much simpler. It's stronger. It's just, guys have gone real fast on 6R stuff.
I thought I saw, because a couple times Full Boost has done videos on like it's almost like a Ford Edge is what it looks like. It's like one of the Ford SUVs that has they have like a Falcon motor and 6-speed transmission in it. And the guy's foot braking. It was going like a high 9. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. That seemed to be where they get to. They sort of go, I don't know even off the top of my head what the fastest 6R car over here is, but I think they've gone into the 8s, but then they don't go a heap faster than that. That kind of seems to be
where, Ford Territory. And then, someone just named it,
Yeah, Territory. That's it's like the SUV version of an XR6. Yeah.
I remember the guy saying like like as soon as they started dipping into trying to close in on the 9s is when the transmission, like, he's like, we're fixing this transmission like every 10 passes. But before that, it was great.
Yeah, and I think that's what you see is that those cars, like, this is exactly what they see, is that they'd be going, like, pushing hard and trying really hard on that thing, and then they get the shits with it, and they're like, I'm putting a 400 in the car, and it instantly, like, PBs the first time it goes to the track.
It probably picks up a second, on a good converter.
It's just, like, straight away. It's just like, they're like, no.
Once
you get to a level, it's like, just move over.
It's funny to explain to people how there's like you're telling the ECU to manage torque, make the shift. Your ratio, you have so many ratios that it's wasting 2 seconds of acceleration time in torque management. Even though it's fast and it's chirping 5 gears, and it still has wasted like a full second of its pass inside torque management.
But back to the Maribara, I wouldn't go to an 88mm compressor wheel. I don't think the 88mm compressor wheel and the 88mm turbine are a great fit together. I'd probably, like, you won't need 88mm compressor, maybe an 85, and then they do. Well, like I said, over here we get Pulsar. They do a one which is it's got the GT50 turbine in it, so it's like a 102. Nice. T91 or whatever. That's quite a good turbo. But yeah, I mean, it depends what you're doing. It depends on how much head flow the thing's got, how much it wants to RPM, like so many things. Like even a like very common combo over here for 1,000 with a Barra with a turbo 400 would be a G45. You know what I mean? That it does it quite easily with a G45.
And what's a 45 and
yeah,
like is that like a 7682 or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It would be
Is
a
it really?
7782 or whatever.
Wow, I
think
totally
so,
guessed
yeah.
that.
I think it is, yeah.
Because I get lost on like
Yeah.
the Garrett when people say a Garrett whatever, because I'm just so used to like domestic sizes where you just say the small side on both sides.
I was gonna say we were touching on that before. I reckon the Pulsar stuff's great. We run that on our own stuff. I don't know if you guys get that, but I think it's similar to VS Racing or whatever. Like, man, I
think you can get them here. Just
They
not that
work
many
so
people are. You know, I'm not tuning a lot of stuff with that on it. But I've heard of those turbos plenty. I've heard people talking about them.
I think they're very similar to VS, honestly. I think, but yeah, definitely they're just excellent. I don't know. I can't fault mine. It works great. And I honestly know even if I switched it out for a genuine Garrett turbo, I would be very surprised if it would pick up really anywhere, like, honestly.
Sure, it would be pretty close, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, then also, if it's what you've got on the shelf, I would probably run it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, if they already have something, why not try it? And if it's bad.
It's funny
or not.
people talk about the rated, the rated. So if someone's just said they're 1,500 rated, I'll be like, you always got to remember that that's flywheel and like perfect scenario.
Yeah. That's on a bench. It can flow exactly this much, 1,500. Or what would you say, 150 CFM? It's usually taken away
pounds
0.
per minute, yeah.
Like 80 pounds per minute is 800 horsepower or whatever that is. It's pounds per minute, I think. So 150 pounds per minute is roughly 1,500 horsepower, capable of moving. But yeah, that's if it doesn't back up on the turbine and if it doesn't back up on 6 intake items and yeah.
Exactly. That when they bring that number, they're only talking about the compressor wheel. You know what I mean? That's just the flow rate. And they go, yeah, this compressor wheel can flow 150 pounds per minute, but that doesn't mean that you can actually flow that through the turbine housing at any kind of desirable EMAT ratio.
How many cubes are you using?
People get lost.
Yeah, 1,000 things.
Because you would probably see that as well. Like we would see like over here, like people use the G42 1200 or 1450 or something, and you see that, which is like wheel size. That's like it's like what is it? It's like a 7375 or a 7975. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they come in on a 6 liter and they go, I just want to make 1,100, and you're like, there is no way this thing's making 1,100.
Should have got another one. Yeah, just stick another one on here. That's how this gets done.
And they go, but it's rated at 1,450, and you're like, doesn't work like that.
Yeah, maybe if it was a 1.8 liter B series.
Correct. Yeah.
Just take away 3/4 of the turbine influence and you're good. Little air pump. Yeah, that's always funny how Civics and stuff are making like, they have like 62 millimeters and they're making like 930 horsepower, but it's just the way that works. It took me a long time for my brain to wrap around that. I'm like, I have a 76 millimeter. Why can't I make 800? And you have a 360 inch V8 with a 76 turbine. That's why.
Exactly right. It's just that boosted back pressure ratio just goes upside down.
It's weird how, but I mean, it all starts to make sense in some strange way.
I think it's one of those things, though, if you look at it, say, for example, exactly that. If you say you got the Civic that makes 800 horsepower on a 62 mil turbine or something, you look at it and it'll be at 40 pounds of boost and it'll be at 40 odd pounds of back pressure. But then if you try and fit that same airflow number through a LS, it'll still be 40 pounds of boost, but it'll be at 12 pounds of back pressure, at 40 pounds of back pressure, and it'll be at like, 15 pounds of boost. So that's why your ratio is just completely upside down. And the thing just stopped making power like, 5 pounds boost ago, you know what I mean? Because the ratio is just so out of left field.
Yeah, I feel like you almost can't put enough turbine on a stupid LS car.
Oh yeah, they just and you would have seen it. You put more turbine in the car and it just picks up. Like it just keeps picking up. You know what I mean?
That's what I learned is years and years ago, I was like, there's just not enough turbine. Every time I go up on turbine, it almost doesn't matter at all what the other numbers are. Just get the damn turbine in there. Because the LS, I feel like LS car doesn't give a shit about a lot of things. So just keeping the back pressure. I've also done. It's been a weird experiment to go from a small, like a 7665 was one of the earlier Chinese turbos, and then 78, 75, and then we started getting S400 stuff, which was like the first 80 millimeter I ran was an 80, 88 and T6, 135 or whatever, the classic S480 clone. And I'm like, damn, we're already like 990 rear wheel all of a sudden. Like, what a jump.
Yeah, and it's like, you're not even trying, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
oh wow, it's just getting happier.
It'll hit 1,000 rear wheel, like 22 pounds max.
Yeah.
Dumb as hell.
Yeah.
I did something the other day and it made 500 on 5 pounds, and on 12.6 pounds it made 730. And it was a 400-inch LS in a Trailblazer SS with a billet S480 on ethanol. And I wasn't leaning on it very hard in any direction. It made 730 on 12 pounds.
That's it. It's just like too easy. It's like when you get the combination right, it just is like, well, this is just too easy.
Anywhere around, I feel like the 6-liter and a S480 with a T6 back end are best friends.
I think another reason why, especially on the LS stuff, they love the turbine so much is because a lot of the time people cam it, and like the way you know is that like you get the guys who they throw too much cam in, like, or they want it to sound cool, you know what I mean? And they throw a heap of cam at it that's got like a fairly tightish lobe separation, and then that makes it sensitive to back pressure.
It just
so it's
overwhelms
like the lower
the
you
exhaust
can get
all the time.
Yeah, and so that's where like you put more turbine in the car, like you said, they just make more and more and more, and it's like, yeah, because it's got a fair bit of cam in it. Like even if you like and a lot of the turbo grinds of stuff, like we use the BTR stuff mostly, but like a lot of them will be on 115 degree lobe sep or whatever, and they really don't want more than like 1.3, 1.4 to 1 boosted back pressure is where they start to just not do what they should.
As soon as it breaks 1 to 1, they're stuck.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And
they'll go
and that's why, like
40 horsepower per pound right to 5 as soon as that goes over 1 to 1, in my opinion.
Yep, I 100% agree. And it's like, and that's where people just go, oh, but the other thing though is like, if you have the converter spec right, a lot of the time it doesn't. Like we had a 5.3 with twin 40s, like twin 73 75s on a 5.3, and that thing spooled up no problems with the Turbo 400. You know what I mean? Like if the converter spec right for the combo, you can throw a crap load of turbo at these things, and a lot of the time they'll still come up just fine.
It's tough to make people realize they might need to put 3 converters in from a talented converter place to make the car perfect. It's a reality. Like they're like, no, they put in a converter and it's terrible, and they're like, I'm just living like this for the next 10 years.
And they don't realize what they're leaving behind.
I'm like,
because
what?
If you get
just change it.
Just transforms the car.
A lot of
I saw
most
actually
places it's a free
one.
What?
I was going to say, someone's asking about e-gates, and I can actually talk about that because I've tuned a couple cars with e-gates.
Oh yeah, I think they asked earlier, or someone else did, about the bridges on the Haltech or something. But I don't know. I've never touched an e-gate, and I have like a 50-50 opinion because of I don't really see people using them. So
I would say a couple things with them. So I've used a couple e-gates, and like no problems. The one thing I would say is with the e-gate, I would say it's more important that you get your wastegate priority very good. And the reason I would vouch for that is because that, in my opinion, they don't move quite as fast as a pneumatic gate. You know what I mean? And so it's still a physical stepper motor that's got to wind the thing open and close. So you will get the best control if you don't have to move the valve very far. And the way that you'll do that is it needs to have really good priority to the wastegate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
because the other thing is you don't have to worry
airflow.
Well, yeah, you don't have to worry about back pressure blowing it open. You know, some people get really like they don't want to give it too good a priority because then they'll have to use 100 pounds of CO2 to make 30 pounds of boost.
It's true. It's electronic, so it'll just shut itself. Yeah.
It can just shut itself. So I would always say, like, if you're doing e-gate, make sure you give it the absolute best priority that you can, because you want it to be able to control the boost with the minimal valve movement, and that's the way that the control will be the absolute best it can be. And then, yeah, they work great. Really good. Yeah, really, really good.
I know the control strategy is like a big thing.
No, I haven't seen any reliability issues. I think some of the early generations of e-gate, they had issues with overheating and getting stuck and stuff like that. but they've done a lot of updates in the control, and especially like the Haltech is really easy to calibrate your E-gate. It's like the throttle. If you ever calibrate E-throttle on a Haltech, there's like a click box. You just go calibrate and it does it. It has the same thing for the E-gate.
Nice.
You just wire it up, you click calibrate.
I saw on like one of the Boosted Boys videos when they first started doing the E-gate stuff, I saw that they had like their own calibration algorithm, and I was like, man, that's nice. Yeah. So Haltech has all the same.
Yeah, all the same thing. So it does the same thing for drive-by-wire, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's the same thing. You just wire it how you're supposed to wire it, obviously. And then you just click calibrate, and it does that. It learns the stop positions. It learns the rate limits and everything. It just does all that stuff automatically.
That's awesome. And then is there like a bias table for that then? So it knows like a certain amount of opening equals a certain amount of boost? And it can...
Yeah, so you have a... Yeah, so the way that you would do it is that there's like a base duty table, which the way that the Haltech turns it, they turn it into the boost control output represents 0% flow and 100% flow, just like normal. And so what they do is they would have it where if the boost control outputs at 100, that would represent the valve fully closed, just like normally. You know what I mean? So it's
okay.
like if you,
that's neat that they
actually do that to make it like so you can think about it like normal, you know what I mean? And like they sort of did that in their own. It
simplifies it internally, yeah.
Yeah, and then you crack the gate open, obviously, to regulate position. But a lot of the time, you'll find that like a fairly flat position. FuelTech's got a really good one as well. The FuelTech E-gate control, which I've played with as well, works quite well. A lot of the time, you can just, like I said, if your priority is good, you can just like tell it to just like have the base table at like 5% or something like that. And then the closed loop can pretty much go from there if you have it dialed. But obviously, I would typically go through and run it at a heap of different boost levels. And if you know the gate position that it ends up needing to be to regulate that boost pressure, will then populate the feed forward table with that number and the system will just get more accurate.
Oh, so it has like a long term.
Yeah, well, it has a feed forward table essentially, like of what the expected gate position for a boost pressure and
but it'll automatically populate that as it learns.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't automatically populate.
I thought that for a second. I thought that it would work like a air fuel table and it would populate percentages long term.
Yeah, you can definitely you can turn long term learning on. I haven't put the long term learning on the E-gate cars. I've just tuned it because it's like essentially once you know what their position is. But like I said, if my tips would be give it excellent gate priority, and then you'll find it really doesn't need a whole lot of valve movement to control the turbo, and then it's actually really quite simple to tune.
That's all good advice. I'll definitely, that's nice. It's neat to know that it works so well that you need to almost give it a crutch to get the best physical result out of it.
Like I said, I've definitely seen people where they didn't have amazing priority, and then essentially the gate had to go almost fully open to control the turbo.
Yeah, and in that like scenario, regularly working just, like shit.
Yeah, not that great. It's like, but if you give it where it's got really good priority, it's like so good.
Huh. That's funny, yeah. Because you hear, like, when it first came out, I know part of it is they're learning to control it. The second part of it is a lot of stuff you see on the internet is like dramatized version of stuff, so they're always breaking stuff anyway. So then when you see something new come out like an E-gate and the people that break shit all the time anyway, you're like, well, it broke because of the E-gate, not because the people just break stuff every time they touch the car. But yeah, it's tough to willingly participate in that. I get it because I love drive-by-wire and everybody hates drive-by-wire, so I can totally understand when the like electronic wastegate comes out, people are like, no way in hell.
Yeah,
because it's a complex strategy, but again, once it works, it works amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try it with people are talking about cold valves. They were going to ask you about that.
Oh yeah, bleed. That's quite popular these days. You know, I'd say that's another thing where the Haltech's nice because you can do generic, like they allow you to do generic PID and stuff. So you can have, like, say you had a charge pressure sensor that was monitoring the pre-throttle pressure. You could then have a small drive-by-wire throttle or something that was then, controlling that pre-throttle pressure, which is, yeah, great. Like obviously the whole idea, I think they've already sort of said it in the comments, but yeah, like it's to get shaft speed on the turbo,
Yeah, through the roof.
able to build a number of boost that is more than what you're actually leaving on. And then when you leave, you can then shut that valve and then essentially, the car hits almost like a nitrous car. You know what I mean? Because it's like it has all this sort of power in reserve.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. In like 2003, my buddy Frank had a ProCharge car with like the crank drive set up on it. It was pulleyed to the moon, and they had a wastegate on the cold pipe in like '03, and people were like, "You're dumb as hell," and the car was a record setter every time, and everyone's like, "How are you doing that?"
Yeah, I think, and like I said, that's like really
what.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, like it's quite popular, the cold valve these days.
It's coming back now. I feel like
throttle bodies.
Yeah, that too.
But they move so fast, like it's just the control can be millisecond. Yeah,
that's always my favorite when people are like, "Well, throttle wire has lag," and I'm like, a stock Toyota Corolla like that has lag, but a Motorsport ECU that has drive-by-wire control doesn't have that lag, and you can watch 1,000 videos on the internet showing you an electronic throttle absolutely moves faster than your foot can through a cable. So it's a moot point. But yeah, it's wild how much adjustability, like that blower car that I built would have never driven nice at all without drive-by-wire. It would have been so scabby and terrible on and off throttle. Does the Haltech can you do twin drive-by-wire?
Yeah.
So you could set up another, like and it still takes all 6 wires, even if you want to do, can you like have the amount of wires since it doesn't need double redundancy for like a charge pipe?
I'd have to double. Well, yeah, you could, because you would set it as a generic PID is what you would do. So then you would just wire one of the position sensors, and you'd only need TPS1. Configured as a drive-by-wire throttle. It'd be configured as just an intake bleed, and like a generic PID essentially. So nice. Yeah, you could just do it off one position sensor. Yeah. Yeah,
that's what I was interested, because obviously it takes 6, and you could use 3 if it didn't need double redundancy for controlling the actual engine directly.
Yeah, no, you just need one input to represent position, and then obviously you'd have a H bridge to drive the motor, so you can move
2 powers and then 1 for position.
Yeah, and then 5 volt ground. Yeah,
that is interesting to know. You could use less, especially if you move 10% throttle and it goes wide open. Yeah. I almost wish they had something built into the Holly to do cruise, because Haltech does.
Yeah, we have a cruise. Yeah, they do make you put like as you would imagine. It has to, like, to have the cruise, you have to have all the stuff turned on. Like it's got to have a brake pedal switch and everything. Manual car's got this. It's got to have obviously vehicle speed calibrated and blah, blah, blah. There's like a whole heap of things you have to do to have the cruise control function. But yeah, it works good. It's
Calvin. What are you putting on the dyno? They have like 26 project cars that are all awesome. So when he says he's going to the dyno, that could be anything.
What?
He says he's going to the dyno.
But
thanks for being on. The wagon again. Oh boy.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks for listening from the other side of the world. It's pretty wild.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was someone saying? There was something I was going to ask also about. Oh, Potato R33. This is so awesome. Yeah, Potato is here. Get the hammer. What's your spirit animal? And if you hit one, I love having him. He always jumps in usually pretty late. But what's nice is he asks obscure non-car related questions to kind of break up the monotony that happens at some point.
Yeah.
What's your spirit animal?
I don't know if I can see that one. What's my spirit animal? I have no idea.
And if you ran one over, how devastated would you be?
My wife just chimed in and said it's a sloth, apparently, but I haven't hit one of those.
I was going to say, this might be a stupid question, but do you have sloths in Australia natively?
No.
I didn't think so.
We have koalas. That's probably as closest to a sloth.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they're there other than like imported, obviously. They're funny little animals. They're weird. Mine is raccoons. Most people know that.
We don't have those either.
My spirit animal is raccoons. They're basically like tiny, awesome, crazy, drunken toddlers. They're crazy.
They look cool. I've seen videos of them. They look awesome.
They're awesome. But the funniest part, I love when people go to feed them, like they're holding like a bag of chips and they're going to give them a chip, and it like fakes and grabs the whole bag, bites their hand, and runs off with the bag. And then they're pissed, and I'm like, that dude won. Like,
That's awesome.
they're crafty little bitches, those guys. They can be nasty too. I hate the videos that everyone's like, they're always so friendly. I'm like, man, they're not friendly where I live. Like, you can,
yeah, right.
You can be nice, I guess, but holy shit, like they're angry. Even if they don't have like, it's I would say it's extremely rare to have like a rabid raccoon. Everyone always thinks they have rabies or something, but they can get pissed easily and they'll fight you. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They can be really nasty. And a bunch of them are huge. They can be like 30, 40 pounds.
That's wild.
Yeah, they can. And then obviously they have like all their fingers and they know Taekwondo. You got to be scared. They could use a knife. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's his name calls them drop bears. All the Aussie guys calls them drop bears.
Yeah.
My friend Steven Alexander. Watch out for the drop bears. He always sends me like memes of them like with bloody mouths, like they're eating people and shit that they obviously don't do. But isn't it like very odd? But aren't koalas like all drunken chlamydia killing themselves off lately?
Yeah, the chlamydia thing's I think a pretty big problem. But
they're like there's like genocide happening because of STDs in the stupid koalas.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, certain places definitely.
And aren't they always, because they doesn't it eucalyptus ferments in their stomach, so they're like perpetually blasted.
Yeah, they don't move very fast. They always like pretty zonked out there. Yeah.
What a strange animal. They are. I have them in my backyard and they're always sick. What are they throwing up or just moping around? Are they like Florida meth heads there or what? I've seen the Siggy Bum Bum cartoons. I know what it's like in Australia.
Yeah.
What are they? Tradies on their pills.
Yeah, tradies.
On the train stations.
Yeah, it'd be Mike Nolan. It'd be the cartoon.
What's the this isn't it? What's an interesting American phrase that's like just sounds odd to you guys or just you?
I went to America in when was it? 2018, I think it was. And there was heaps of little things that it's just like same but different, like just all kinds of stuff that, you know, like things like just going to the bathroom and stuff. Like we would ask where the toilet is and you guys like say restroom and like little things like that. I don't know. It's just weird. There's just like little disconnects the whole way through of just like we'd call stuff different things. Just, yeah. That's
like every state in America. If you come over a state, everything's different. Everything is this different language.
Right. Yeah, because it was definitely a bit of...
The South is another planet. Except for till you get to Florida, and then it's like a prison yard. Most of Florida is like a giant open prison, in my opinion. It's pretty crazy. You can do whatever you want in Florida. It's pretty cool. Oh, soda pop Coke. Pitter-patter.
Yeah. Oh, pitter-patter. Oh, that's a long story. I don't even know if it's appropriate.
Wow.
That pitter-patter thing's from there was at the Warwick drag strip, which is where we were going to go. We got rained out. There's a American guy there. His name's Critter. I don't know what his real name is, but he helps do the track prep. And the local guys there, if he watches this, he'll be like, "What?" The local guys there have been just like telling him all these things that are not true, like saying, "Oh, you can't say that," and all this sort of stuff. And that's what the pitter-patter thing is a reference to. He said something about it started raining, and then he's like, "Oh, it's a bit of pitter-patter or something." And then the local Aussie guys there told him that you can't say that. It's like
super
it's
insulting.
Reference to like, Yeah, like it's insulting.
It's a
Like
social
it's
faux
it's
pas.
like
Yeah.
it's like he goes, oh, people think you like touching kids and stuff, and he was like, then he's like mortified, and he's like,
Yeah, they told him
and
something
then
so he would never.
everyone's just everyone's just all the Aussies are in stitches because so we're definitely larrikins and that sort of stuff, but that was pretty funny. I just saw that. I forgot about the pitter patter thing, but that was hilarious.
Florida is the cool state from an Australian perspective. You're right, dude. Florida is like when everything else has gone to shit, that's where normal people will have to go. That's why there's like everyone from California is sick and tired of how shitty California is, so they're moving to Texas because Texas isn't shitty, but they're gonna make Texas shit. It's like a whole, and then everybody from New York, New Jersey, and like my area is annoyed with how it is here, so they're going to Florida also, and Florida and Texas are like, go away. You go away. Don't come here. But Florida is very similar to you guys because you just wear like sandals and roast in the sunlight all the time.
Especially most of the area where we are, it's like it's just hot all year round. So that's why everyone just wears sandals and singlets and stuff because it's like I said, even in winter, it's like 25 degrees Celsius. So it's like you just
Oh, my buddy Kenny goes, killer animals, wild people. Yeah, that's that's it. Same thing, like the Everglades is like, holy shit. Like, you ever see that? There's a guy on Instagram, there's a bunch of people that do this, but they do stuff in the Everglades, and there's that one guy that's always like, oh, look, a swamp puppy, and he grabs like an alligator by the back leg and like pulls it towards him. And he's like, oh, a 25-foot boa, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. Garrett, that's his name. Someone just posted it, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, that guy, he has like a flashlight, and he's standing in dark water, and he's like stepping over an alligator.
Yeah.
Like, how does this guy not die?
We've got big, like saltwater crocodiles and stuff. They're further north than us. They don't really start till up around Townsville, which is like about 5 or 6 hours north of us. But,
way up.
up there is like everything wants to. Yeah, the ocean wants to kill you. The creeks want to kill you. It's
I've seen enough Steve Irwin to know about the salties.
Oh yeah, you definitely want to grab one of those by the tail.
No thanks. They never look happy, those giant ones. But yeah, obviously those alligators aren't anywhere near like a 13-foot saltwater, and they all seem very docile for whatever reason around that man. He definitely exudes some sort of alpha animal vibes whenever he's around, because animals are like, what the fuck are you doing? I think they're just so surprised by his audacity that they don't bite him. I don't know what it is. They look at each other and they're like, you see this guy? Oh, they're finding Crocs in Orlando. Yeah, they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. Yeah, that's Ricky Bobby. Yeah, there was something else. Oh shit. Oh, I have a friend that's you guys are near Sydney, right?
Oh, we're a fair bit north of Sydney. We're north of Brisbane. Yeah, so Sydney's probably 10, 11 hours away south.
Wow, never mind.
Yeah.
That's far. Yeah, that's decently far. Because I was going to say, I have a friend that does rotary stuff. I might have mentioned it. And he's in Sydney. Matt Lyle.
Yeah.
Mr. Enforcer Engineering.
Oh, yeah.
Just cranking out rotaries all day. He was actually here forever ago. In like 2003, he was here. And he bought a Pro Mod from my friend and took it back to Australia. There's a Ford Probe.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
might have seen the car, actually.
Yeah, it had like a fire paint job, and then he eventually changed it. But it was like a 400 cubic inch small block Ford with twin Y2Ks, and it would go like mid sixes.
Yeah.
And it was like in like 2003. It would trap like 225 in like 20 years ago. It was dumb as shit. I remember I went to them to a Nopi Nationals in like 03 or 02, and they had to enter an unlimited class, and the fastest thing there went like a high 7, and they went like a 650 at 225.
Damn, really sucked the doors off on the way past.
What's funny is because I think he had 90 some millimeters on it, and it would take them so long to make full power that then he wanted to do a Nopi event, and they were limiting you to 88 millimeter. So he put Y2Ks on that were 88s, and he said the car was like way faster because they could actually they could use more of the turbo meat that they weren't using when they had the 90 somethings on it. So then they said the event people were like, "You're cheating." And he's like, "I put on the turbos you want. I spent like $4,000 putting on the turbos you wanted." And then they're like, "Well, now you're faster. What are you doing?" And he's like, flooring it. I don't know what to tell you." That was wild. They had that same day. They had one of those. That was when they were doing the Ecotech stuff. They had a rail car with the Chevy Ecotech 4-cylinder, like the 2-liter or 2.2 liter. It was in a rail car and it was going like mid-6s.
Wow.
I was like, "Damn, what is that?" And they were like, "Oh, it's an Ecotech." I'm like, "A Cobalt engine? What the fuck?" I had never heard of that.
I think they've gone into the 5s, haven't they, now with those?
Oh yeah, I had no idea. I thought they were lying too. I'm like, "You have an Ecotech in this," and they're like, "Yeah, look at it." I'm like, "Okay, all right." I didn't know shit then, but yeah, apparently that's an extremely capable engine. They just never made any cars worth a damn, in my opinion. Yeah, so 10 hours. Holy shit, that's like driving. I've driven to LS Fest from my house, and it's 13 hours to go to Bowling Green, Kentucky from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it'd be similar. That'd be like driving to Sydney from here. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that sucks. What is it? It's probably only like 2 hours to fly.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
That's nice. All right. Well, I don't know if does anybody else have any outstanding questions? I think I got all of mine answered.
Yeah, sweet.
As far as what I can think of, I definitely want to tune some VVT K series.
Yeah. Or even those 2GRs. Like I said, 2GRs are pretty fun, and I think they're probably cheap. Good to learn VVT, definitely.
And then what about, I was going to ask something about your dyno. Do you have can you do what I upgraded my dyno maybe like 3 months ago to the new DynoJet software package, and I got a part of the stack where I can do 5 inputs, and I put a pressure sensor in it. And then because I always wanted to do that anyway, so I could plot boost curves, because when you look back on the dyno pull, unless the logs and everything are, I try to do like pull 1 on the dyno is data log 001. Yeah, I try obviously for organization.
Correlate,
but one of my friends had set up a thing that automatically figures out horsepower per pound, and I had set that up.
Oh yeah.
So awesome. Like it automatically does it. Can the Dyno Pack do that?
You can't do custom math channels. You definitely I have sensors. Yeah, I've got a handful of sensor input channels that I use. Like I've got dual. I've got a thing that I can screw in for coolant pressure. Normally, if a car doesn't have a coolant pressure sensor, I've got like a jig that can bring coolant pressure on for cars with stock ECUs and stuff. I've even got things for fuel pressure channels where I can put fuel pressure in. I like to keep an eye, again, because you get people coming who don't have stock ECU stuff. It's never got the sensors and stuff you want to have on it. So I got that. But you can't do a custom math channel to be able to calculate math boost per pound. No, that doesn't do that. I did see in the comments somebody's asking Zinger Box or Hungry Jack's Whopper, and that's Zinger Box all day. That's not even a question.
Are those fast food places?
Yeah, fast food. Yeah.
What's Zinger Box? Is it?
It's KFC. It's like a spicy chicken thing from KFC. Yeah.
Oh, it's KFC. Because you guys, it's funny. Australians will call something. I guess we do it too. But I feel like if you have a McDonald's, you'll call it anything but a McDonald's. Or if it's a gas station, you'll call it anything but a gas station. Just like how Americans. I just saw a thing. I was scrolling through Instagram last night, and it was a thing that was like, NASA says an asteroid the size of 16 refrigerators went past us. And I immediately was like, Americans will measure anything. There's always that meme or statement. Americans will measure anything in anything but metric. So they say refrigerators or 3 Texas or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, I don't even know how, I can't correlate what 16 refrigerators looks like anyway. But yeah, same thing. Anyway, I totally went off subject there. So Zinger Box is a KFC food.
Yeah, KFC. It's like a burger and that, and it's like all the. I'm guessing you guys have Zinger. Is Zinger a thing? Is that, or is that?
I don't
you guys
know.
Call it something different?
I might be
it's
ignorant.
It's like the spicy version, essentially. You can get it original, or you can get Zinger, which is a spicy one. So it's
People have to let me know if that's real. KFC item? I don't know. Sucks NCBE. We just call it spicy chicken in the States. Yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, Aussies, like you guys say, there's afternoon, and you say Arvo.
Yeah, Arvo, yeah.
And it just like sounds like it sounds like you're talking about a motor or a servo or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
2-inch and 5/16, huh? Big toe makes more sense. No, you're totally right. They say KFC is better in Australia. Is that true?
I have had, I would say so. We've got it's like everyone I know is like KFC's just, we call it Dirty Bird. That's probably that's the nickname for KFC is Dirty Bird. Yeah.
It makes sense though. That makes more sense than a lot of the other slangs.
Yeah. But like like you can't have it every day, but you got to have it at least once a week, I reckon. It's
Interesting, yeah. I don't even know if there is. I mean, well, there's got to be some in my area, but I don't go there. I was gonna say they might have. What was someone else? What is it? Man, someone said something also that I wanted to ask, and that's pretty much it. Let's ask people for some questions. Otherwise, we're gonna wind it down. It's almost midnight here.
Yeah, no.
What is it? What is it there?
What is it? 2:41. 2:41.
Oh,
Nearly 3
okay.
o'clock in the hour.
Yeah, not bad. Sob heads on Ecotech? Interesting. Okay, my bike. Stupid question. What would your steps be if you were building a road race car / turbo build? The aim is to being close to NA throttle? Oh, just like... I mean, that totally depends on... That's one of those can of worms questions. What engine is it? What's the power goal? And then sizing the turbo to meet all of that. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy with any of it.
Some of the stuff I've helped out on a car, like a time attack car, actually, that runs a like drive-by-wire throttle control for boost, which is pretty cool. That was a Motec on that, but that was pretty wild. Like, essentially, the pedal was a torque request, and then it could use the drive-by-wire throttle to generate that torque, and then we had it like referenced between each gear, so it was normalized to the gear the car was in. You can do this again. This is like quite common on the M-Tron stuff. This is like that more motorsporty stuff. But then that becomes what I'm sort of getting at is that turbo becomes less important if you have an ECU with like proper torque control like that, because you can make it very, very linear and almost NA-like. Obviously, you still have to size the turbo right and everything, but that is a can of worms question for what engine, how much power, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, definitely there's a reason why a lot of the like really fast circuit stuff, if you look, is normally gravitates towards your Motec or M-Tron sort of stuff. And it's because some of the way that they can do their torque control stuff is it's excellent. Yeah, it's
like the stock Ford stuff. Well, GM has torque modeling on like Gen 5 and up also, basically. But yeah, that's pretty cool. The drivability is insane when all that stuff is correct. I agree. Because you can you're requesting a small amount, so it does whatever it can to make a small amount.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive around like a power band. It's pretty neat. Yeah, those Ecotechs were wild back in the day. I didn't know anything about them until I saw that rail car, and I was like, damn.
Very impressive.
A lot of 4-cylinder stuff wasn't doing anything fantastic, and Ecotech was like, well, we're making 3,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. All right. Yeah, I think, unless anybody has anything else to ask, I think we're good on answering. We went over plenty.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I'll wait like 30 seconds because there's a delay. So if I ask and then I close it right when that was funny. One guy had said, what did he say? I said, anybody have any questions? He goes, give it 5 minutes after I close, or after this show stops, and I'll have heaps.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That's always the way.
Someone send me a sleeve coyote. Paulie, is that your friend?
Yeah.
Someone send me a sleeve coyote. I'm already here. It's easier. Now, I'd love to get a coyote eventually, but man, the motor is gigantic. Everything's expensive. There's 7 camshafts in it. Not a fan.
I tuned one a while ago, and I was definitely a fan. I was like, these things are just sick. Like a twin turbo one, I was like,
Yeah.
man, these are cool.
Yeah, incredible. I would like, if I was a millionaire, I would buy one of those, like, Fat House Fab makes those cars. You ever hear of Fat House Fabrications?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
They sell like that 1300R and 1500R GT 500 or all sorts of weird Shelby packages, but it has like a completely integrated Motec and everything's built into the steering wheel, controls for power and traction, and then it has a gearbox, a manual gearbox that holds like 2,000 horsepower. And I remember like I'm friends with the Fab guy that works there, and he's just, not to say anything bad about him, but he's just the Fab guy. He gets in the car, drives from like Georgia to LS Fest West, whacks out like a fucking 780. They kick him out because it doesn't even have a cage, and then he drives home with like the AC on in the completely, so he's done it a bunch of times. Like anytime they have some
awesome.
Holly Ford meet, he just drives it to Bowling Green and smacks out some outrageous 1500 plus horse, and it's a stick shift car, and it's on like 18s or 20s. Yeah, and he just shows up and does ridiculous. That and leaves.
I'm 780. Like, it must have been at like 185.
Yeah, it was probably ridiculous. Like a Honda, like 204. Yeah, 760 at 204. But but I'm like, damn, I would buy one of those, but I wouldn't even want to change my oil in it.
Yeah,
I don't even want to pop the hood and look at the What did Kenny does a lot of Coyote stuff. Turbo Gixxer tuning. His name's Kenny. He does a lot of Motec and he has a stock sealed Coyote car. So he has one of the he has like an orange Fox body with like a completely stock Coyote in it that goes pretty fast. It does pretty nice wheelies. I'll say that.
That's cool.
He has a record. Dang. What's the record for stock sealed Coyote? It's probably like a high 8 in this stupid stock engine. What's the record, Kenny? What is your record? 922. Nice. At 144, what does it make? Like 460 to the tire? MS 109. Are you allowed to tune the computer even though it's sealed? So you can tune it on. Does it have to be a factory computer that's tuned? You can't say. Can you use a stock computer? Or is it just has to be a sealed engine class? The rules are funny in those.
Yeah.
World Cup Finals, stock company. Stock computer, I think he means, yeah. So just tuned, obviously, because MS-109 is oxygenated, I think.
They are full-time closed loop, though, so maybe just let it ride.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot. A lot of that GM stuff is like forever in the dark age. I always laugh, like, because you said you tune stock DCU Subarus. My friend has that Subaru shop like 10 minutes from me, and like 10, 15 years ago, the completely stock Subarus had Y bands in them, like, and I'm like, we don't even have those now. Like,
yeah,
a stock GM truck still has a narrow band. I mean, I'm hoping at some point. Do the new trucks have Y bands yet? Holy shit, man!
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Definitely not our
stuff. I mean, Coyote cars
had
Y bands, I think.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, Coyotes have Y bands.
As soon as like first gen Coyote, I believe my friend had one in like 2011, and I remember data logging in Lambda, and I'm like, oh, this has Y bands in it. Damn. M5, it will go 8s at 2,800 pounds H pattern car. Dang. On M5, it makes that much more power. Holy shit. Nitro or no, or is that another secret? I don't know.
Apparently the C8's going to have wide bands, is what someone's saying.
Oh.
I haven't. I've seen a C8, but I haven't worked on one yet.
I'm not totally uninterested in those cars. Uninterested in the people that own them and the what does it cost? $2,000 to get it tuned, and plus to make like 20 horsepower. That doesn't sound cool. And then you can hang turbos on it, and all you do is smash gearboxes and spin clutches all day long.
Didn't I hear that they're doing turbos for the ZR1 or something? Is that confirmed, or I don't know?
They keep kicking that around. I mean, years ago, I remember seeing like a thing where GM showed like their engine options, and one of them was supposedly like the twin turbo Z06 or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe. Even then, I don't think it'll be that great. None of that stock Corvettes are great. I don't know. I feel like it's a good platform. Like, you buy a base C6, you put a blower on it, and you do that stuff. You don't buy, like, the Z. You buy that stuff to be, like, the cool guy that goes to Walmart, and people are like, wow, you have a new Corvette. And you're like, yeah, I do. I'm better than you. Why are you at a Walmart trying to show me up in my 96 Nissan Altima? Anyway. All right. Well, thanks for being on.
No worries at all.
And offering the tuning perspective. I think I might have missed out on, like, worst cars on the dyno. That's always fun to talk about, but that's like a giant can of worms.
Yeah. Save that for another time.
Yeah, just do a day where I'll do a thing where I have 6 people in and they can just talk shit the whole time.
Yeah, we can all bounce off each other.
Yeah, I'll do a thing where I have, like, Joe, Devin, and everybody, and I'll just run away for the rest of the day and let everybody yell on the stream. All right, well, thanks for being on. And
no
Sharon and everything else.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're up for it. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and we'll say bye to everybody and have a good night and happy holidays and all of that.
Sweet ass.
Yep, see you later. Bye.
Bye.